Chapter 234. Lin Muyu initially thought that Qin Jin had only given Qin Yin a verbal edict. She did not expect that Qin Yin would open her spatial pouch and take out a golden scroll. Qin Jin's handwriting was written on the scroll. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes looked at her grandfather and uncle who were kneeling on the ground. She cleared her throat and said, Yunzhong Province's governor, Duke Yun, listen to the edict. Immediately gather the main military forces of Yunzhong Province with this edict and promote Su Qin to be the commander-in-chief, commanding 100,000 steel blade troops. Su Yu to be the protector of the state general, commanding 60,000 Qin dragon troops. Send these 160,000 troops out of Yunzhong Pass and use this edict as an excuse to attack Cangnan Province. Enter Five Valleys City and disarm Long Qinlin's 100,000 troops. If he disobeys, kill without mercy. In addition, all the seized troops must be handed over to the Jiangnan general, Lin Muyu. I hope that Duke Yun can put Lin Muyu's military skills in an important position and assign 50,000 steel blade troops to her command. Together, we will pacify the chaos in Cangnan Province. After reading the edict, Qin Yin smiled and bowed. Grandfather, uncle, don't kneel. Quickly get up and receive the edict. Otherwise, Xiao Yin will be embarrassed. Quickly get up. Su Muyun slowly stood up with a shocked expression on his face. Looks like His Majesty is really going to make a move against Hu Tianning this time. Qin Yin nodded. Yes. Not only did Hu Tianning secretly minted coins, he also controlled the military and political power. Even when Imperial Father repeatedly summoned him to the imperial capital to report on his work, he pretended to be deaf and mute. It has already been 2 years since he paid tribute to the imperial capital. Su Qin stood up, cupped his fists, and sneered, Hu Tianning's rebellious intentions are clear. Humph, this time with His Majesty's personal edict, I want to see what Hu Tianning can do. Su Muyun furrowed his brows and said, this matter must be completed with the force of a thunderbolt. If we delay, there will be changes. Qin, immediately order the 100,000 steel blade army to return to Muyu City. Your sister Su Yu's Zither dragon army is only 1 day away. The entire army needs to enter Cangnan Province secretly. With the speed of the Muyu City steel cavalry, we can reach the Five Valleys City within 3 days. With the Emperor's edict, we can seize all the military equipment in Cangnan Province. Su Qin nodded. Yes, father. I will do as you say, but what, uncle? Qin Yin blinked her eyes and asked. Su Qin smiled and said, His Majesty's edict ordered me to hand over half of the Steel Blade Army's military power to you. Sai, the captaincy of the Steel Blade Army are all rough people. I'm afraid that you is new and will not be able to control them well. Qin Yin was startled. She did not expect Su Qin to say this. But after thinking about it carefully, it was reasonable. Lin Muyu was silent, but she was thinking about many things. This time, Qin Jin used the Muyu city's military power to pacify the rebellious people in Cangnan Province. At the same time, he wanted her to take part of the Muyu city's military power to achieve the effect of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This showed that Qin Jin did not trust Su Muyun and Su Qin completely. This game of power was too complicated, and Lin Muyu was already involved. It was impossible for Xiaoyao to stay out of it. Xiao Yin, Lin Muyu frowned and said, just as Lord Su Qin said, I am only a newly appointed general of the south. There is no way I can control an army of 50,000. I am also worried that I am not capable enough and will ruin things. But Imperial Father's edict. Qin Yin pouted and said, all right then, I will listen to you. Lin Muyu turned around and cupped his fists at Su Qin with a smile and said, Commander Su Qin, don't worry. I, Lin Muyu, will not take a single soldier from the Muyu city. The 100,000 Steel Blade Army will still be under your command. This way, the Steel Blade Army's combat power can be maximized. I am just a little worried. Cangnan Province's General Long Qianlin is well versed in the art of war and has nearly 20,000 flying mount soldiers under him. If this matter cannot be resolved peacefully, a bloody battle will be inevitable. Su Qin looked at him gratefully and said, You, what do you think we should do? Lin Muyu said, how about this, let's take drastic measures. What drastic measures? Su Muyun narrowed his eyes and looked at this inexperienced young man. Lin Muyu smiled, Long Qianlin's biggest trump card is the 17,000 flying mount soldiers, so I plan to split the army into 2 groups. I will first go to 5 Valleys City and borrow the 10,000 flying mount soldiers from Long Qianlin with my dragon talisman. Then, Commander Su Qin and Commander Su Yu will lead the Cloud Province's army to suppress the border. Maybe Hu Tianning will give up resisting and admit defeat. Good. Yu patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, this is a good idea. I forgot that Commander Long Qianlin is the champion of the Sword Battle Assembly and has a dragon talisman in his hand. But you don't need to go to 5 Valleys City. I received a letter not long ago saying that Long Qianlin has led nearly 20,000 flying mount soldiers to 3 Mountain Pass. You just need to go to 3 Mountain Pass and take 10,000 of his flying mount soldiers. Then, Long Qianlin will naturally be a tiger without teeth. Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin and said, then Xiao Yin, Su Muyun smiled slightly, don't worry, I will bring Xiao Yin to conquer Cangnan province. I only have 1 granddaughter, so naturally, I won't let her suffer any harm. You just go to 3 Mountain Pass. By the way, going alone is a bit weak. How about this? Su Qin, pick 3,000 cavalry from the Iron Blade Army and let you bring them to 3 Mountain Pass. This will ensure their safety along the way. Yes, father. Then it's decided. You will rest for the night and set off tomorrow morning. Our army will also set off tomorrow. Let's meet at 5 Valleys City. If we succeed, I will bring Xiao Yin, Su Qin, and Su Yu to the imperial capital to see His Majesty. It's been a long time since I've gone back to Lanyan City to visit my relatives. Qin Yin smiled faintly, let's do it this way. Late at night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Green smoke lingered in the gilded incense burner, bringing with it a faint fragrance. The wing of the Duke's mansion in Muyu City was very exquisite and unusually spacious. Outside, there were 4 maids waiting to be summoned at any time. Lin Muyu sat on the side of the bed, slowly circulating the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to speed up the recovery of her injuries. Qin Yin sat not far away, holding a cup of hot tea and smiling as she breathed. Big brother Yu. She suddenly looked at Lin Muyu. What's wrong, Xiao Yin? Lin Muyu smiled. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and softly said, Father intended to let you lead the troops to gain experience. Why did you refuse Father's good intentions? Originally, if we had insisted a little, Uncle would have divided half of the troops for you to command. Uncle has been in control of the Iron Blade Army for so many years. It's considered the most elite force in the entire continent. You actually didn't understand Father's painstaking efforts. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She walked over and sat next to Qin Yin, saying, It's not that I didn't understand, but I saw Commander Su Qin's performance. Your uncle is not that generous. The Iron Blade Army is his flesh and blood. If you insist on cutting half of it, it's hard to guarantee that he won't be dissatisfied, right? Qin Yin nodded lightly and smiled, saying, What you said makes some sense. But this way. Perhaps after Cangnan province is recovered, the biggest beneficiaries will be uncle and grandfather. But that's fine too. We're a family after all. Yes. Lin Muyu sighed. Qin Jin sent him to protect Qin Yin to Muyu City. This game of chess was a little big. He didn't know if his good intentions would achieve the desired results. Lin Muyu now admired this emperor more and more. Qin Jin was far from being as muddle-headed and incompetent as he looked on the surface. On the contrary, he was a schemer. In the main hall of the Duke's mansion, Su Qin knelt on the ground on one knee. His hand held the hilt of his sword and his expression was solemn. He said in a low voice, Father, if I did something wrong, you can punish me directly. Su Muyun's expression was cold. He said lightly, You know you did wrong? I don't know, you don't know? Su Muyun's pair of turbid eyes suddenly shone brightly. He said, His Majesty wants you to split half of the troops and let Lin Muyu command. You actually dared to shirk the responsibility. Humph. Do you know that you have committed the crime of deceiving the emperor? As long as Xiao Yin goes back and says a word in front of His Majesty, I'm afraid you can't be the great general anymore. Su Qin was startled. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Then I have already done wrong. How should I remedy it? Father, please teach me. Su Muyun sighed and said, Don't worry. You are Xiao Yin's uncle. Xiao Yin has also grown up and is sensible. She will naturally not do anything that is detrimental to you. As for that Lin Muyu, what's wrong with Lin Muyu? He knows how to read people's expressions at such a young age. Furthermore, I have observed him for a long time. I found that his breathing is very stable and his mood is not chaotic. Such a person will definitely be able to maintain his calm and composure in the face of great ups and downs. If the rumors are true, and he did not fall into a disadvantageous position when fighting against Long Qianlin on the Fire Axe Mountain, then such a person is really too terrifying. Su Qin raised his head and smiled. Father, you is His Majesty's godson and Xiao Yin's godson. The more skilled he is in both the pen and the sword, the more he will be able to protect the empire, right? Su Muyun couldn't help but laugh. He nodded and said noncommittally, Perhaps you're right. Qin, you should pay more attention to this Lin Muyu in the future. Once he has any rebellious thoughts, he will be the biggest threat to the empire. If you really find out that he has rebellious thoughts one day, remember father's words, kill him immediately without mercy. Yes, father, I will remember. We will set off tomorrow. The cavalry will be in the front, and the infantry will bring up the rear. We must arrive at the Five Valleys city within 3 days. I hope that this time, Hu Tianning will be executed without using any weapons. Otherwise, I am afraid that the people of the Cloud Province and Sangnan Province will encounter a great disaster. I understand. The next morning, Lin Muyu woke up early. Lin Muyu's injuries had already recovered by about 70 to 80%. His left arm was brimming with energy and boundless strength. After the battle at Dao River, his overall strength did not decrease. Instead, it increased quite a bit. It could be considered as a blessing in disguise. Early in the morning, 3,000 cavalrymen of the Steel Blade Army stood in great numbers outside the city. Qin Yin personally handed an iron tiger tally to Lin Muyu. She repeatedly told him to be careful and pay attention to his safety. Lin Muyu naturally smiled and comforted her in every way possible, telling her not to worry. After giving the order, 3,000 cavalrymen quickly left the Muyu city and went straight to the Three Mountains Pass. Chapter 235. After galloping along the ancient path for a day and a night, they could see the Three Mountain Pass in the distance at noon on the second day. General. A Chiliarch cupped his fists and said, The Three Mountain Pass is the transportation hub of the Yunzhong Commandery and the ancient path. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. I'm afraid Long Qianlin has already received the news of Yushu's arrival. Follow me into the pass in a while. Yes. Another Chiliarch said worriedly, If Long Qianlin has any rebellious thoughts, General shouldn't enter the pass. It's too dangerous. How can General take the risk? Don't worry. Lin Muyu untied the dragon spirit sword on her back and held it in her hand. She smiled and said, You guys can camp outside the pass. I'll go in alone. Wait for me. No. I'll follow General into the pass. If we're going to die, we'll die together. There's no one in Muyu City who's afraid of death. He said firmly. Lin Muyu nodded in appreciation, Good. Then the 3 Chiliarchs will follow me into the pass to show our sincerity. Yes. The Three Mountain Pass was located between 3 peaks. It was about 10 meters high and the walls were built with huge rocks that weighed thousands of kilograms. The walls were covered with withered vines. There were flags fluttering above the pass. It was Long Qianlin's flag with a big, long character that was very conspicuous. Lin Muyu slowly approached the city with the 3 senior generals and shouted from afar, "General of the South, Lin Muyu, requests to see General Long Qianlin. Please open the gate for us." Creak, the drawbridge was lowered and the guards cupped their fists and said, "General Long invites Sir to enter the pass for a chat." "Many thanks." They rode their horses into the pass and found that the interior of the 3-mountain pass was very spacious and well organized. More than 10,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount camp were stationed inside and the shouts from the training ground were earth-shattering. In the depths of the camp, a row of cavalry galloped over. Long Qianlin was at the front in golden armor and holding a spear. He laughed and cupped his fists and said, "Sir Lin Muyu, it's been a long time. I didn't expect you to come to the 3-mountain pass. Are you looking for me to drink?" "Of course not." Lin Muyu looked at the situation inside the pass. The flying cavalry camp supply troops were preparing their rations and weapons, and they were about to set off. He couldn't help but ask, "Sir Long Qianlin, where are you planning to go after breaking camp?" Long Qianlin looked calm and said with a smile, "I heard that a group of bandits has been causing trouble in the villages and towns within the borders of Wugu City. Therefore, under the orders of the governor, I'm going to lead the Flying Mount Battalion back to Wugu City to eliminate the bandits." "Oh, I see," Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "but I also have urgent military news here. A group of wandering mercenaries are attacking the innocent people of Cloud Middle Commandery. I have been ordered by His Majesty to bring the Dragon Talisman to Sir Long Qianlin to borrow troops to eliminate the bandits." "Borrowing soldiers from me?" "That's right. Can I lend you 10,000 fierce soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion?" Lin Muyu took out the Dragon Talisman. The exquisite commander's talisman glowed with a moving luster under the sunlight. "This." Long Qianlin frowned and muttered to himself. After a long while, he said, "But I have been ordered by the governor to break camp and return to Wugu City as soon as possible." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "The Dragon Talisman was bestowed by His Majesty." "Sir Long Qianlin, may I ask, is the Flying Mount Battalion the Empire's army or the governor's army?" Long Qianlin looked aghast and hurriedly cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Of course it's the Empire's army." "Sir Lin Muyu, you're giving me too much credit." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "Since that's the case, why aren't you willing to hand over the Flying Mount Battalion to me?" "This. Long Qianlin's expression was uncertain. He had already thought of many things. Lin Muyu urged her horse closer and said in a low voice, "A great building is about to collapse. A wise man submits to circumstances. Could it be that Sir Long Qianlin is really willing to see these elite warriors of the Flying Mount Battalion become a pile of desolate bones under the rule of power?" Long Qianlin gritted his teeth even more and confirmed his thoughts. He raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and asked, "Has His Majesty really made up his mind? Privately minting coins is a grave crime. Don't you understand?" Long Qianlin sighed. At the same time, his palm gently moved to the hilt of his sword. The group of Flying Mount Battalion guards at the side also looked fiercely at Lin Muyu and company. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. With a soft grunt, a golden gourd appeared in his palm. He held the golden gourd and said with a smile, "That's right. There are only 3 of us who entered the pass. You, Long Qianlin, can kill the 3 of us without batting an eyelid, but Duke Yun, His Highness Yun, Su Qin, Su Yu, and the entire Yunzhong province know that I, Lin Muyu, have come to 3-mountain pass to borrow soldiers. You want to kill me, but you want the entire 3-mountain pass to be buried with me. Is it really worth it?" Long Qianlin's expression was extremely pained. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "You are a person who loves soldiers. The Flying Mount Battalion is one of the few elite divisions of the Empire. They should be fighting all over the country and defending our territory. Do you want the Flying Mount Battalion to become a rebel army and die without a burial ground because of your mistake?" This sentence hit the nail on the head. Long Qianlin was indeed a general who used troops like a god, but he was also a person who loved soldiers like they were his own children. Forget it, Forget it, Long Qianlin sighed. He looked up at the sky and said, if it is preordained by the heavens, then I, Long Qianlin, have betrayed the heavens and the earth. Since Sir Lin Muyu has the dragon talisman bestowed by His Majesty, then I, Long Qianlin, entrust all 17,000 brave soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion to you. I hope you can treat these brave soldiers well. No matter how many unpardonable crimes the governor and I, Long Qianlin, have committed, these soldiers are innocent. They are all soldiers who are loyal to the empire. I know. Lin Muyu looked at him deeply and said, I guarantee with my life that these 17,000 brave soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion will be safe. All right, thank you very much, Long Qianlin shouted. All the cavalry commandants of the Flying Mount Battalion, come over here. The cavalry commandants of the Flying Mount Battalion were Kiliarchs and were also the ones who had the most direct control over the military. Very soon, all 17 cavalry commandants gathered in front of them. Their warhorses neighed as they looked at Long Qianlin solemnly. Long Qianlin reluctantly took out the tiger tally from his bosom, raised it high, and shouted word by word, always remember, the Flying Mount Battalion is the army of the Empire. You and I are soldiers of the Empire. We will never betray the people or our homeland. From today onwards, the person you need to follow is Sir Lin Muyu and not me, Long Qianlin. Remember, don't seek revenge for me and don't resent anyone. Your mission is to protect the Empire's territory. Long Qianlin turned around and handed the tiger tally to Lin Muyu. His eyes were red as he said, from today onwards, the Flying Mount Battalion will be entrusted to you. All the cavalry commandants looked emotional and shouted, we are willing to follow the general forever. The general can't abandon us like this. Long Qianlin shouted in a low voice, all of you, shut up. Remember, you are the soldiers of the Empire, not the soldiers of me, Long Qianlin. That's all I have to say. 3 Mountain Pass Imperial Guards, assemble and follow me. He turned his horse and left. Lin Muyu hurriedly asked, Long Qianlin, where are you going? Long Qianlin turned around. His handsome face was filled with helplessness and despair as he said, the Five Valleys city has changed. Governor Hu Tianning has known me for a long time and has shown me great kindness. He has admonished me to the death and fought to the death. I want to return to the Five Valleys city and die in battle as my final gratitude to the governor. Are you going to rebel with Hu Tianning? Lin Muyu shouted. Do I have a choice? Long Qianlin was furious. Lin Muyu raised the tiger tally and shouted, Flying Mount Battalion, listen up. Take down Long Qianlin. Long Qianlin suddenly drew his sword and shouted, I want to see who dares to stop me. Long Qianlin. Lin Muyu raised her voice and said, perhaps Hu Tianning originally didn't want to resist the army of Muyu City, but your going is tantamount to giving him hope. Do you know that you are helping the evildoer? Do you know how many soldiers will die tragically in Five Valleys City, how many wives will lose their husbands, and how many children will lose their fathers for your insignificant gratitude? I, Long Qianlin suddenly trembled. He was dressed in military attire, but tears were flowing down his face. He suddenly sheathed his sword and said, then I will go alone. If I have to die, I, Long Qianlin, will die alone. No one can stop me. With that, the warhorse raised its front hooves and flew out of 3 Mountain Pass. Looking at Long Qianlin's back, Lin Muyu's expression was a little lonely. She frowned and said, all commandants, gather. Prepare to assemble the troops and follow me out of the pass. The commandants were dumbfounded. With Long Qianlin gone, Lin Muyu had become the highest-ranking person here. They were stunned for a moment, then they all crossed their right hands in front of their chest and saluted, yes, my lord. In the afternoon, the 17,000 Flying Mount Battalion soldiers and the 3,000 cavalry of Muyu City gathered together. The military might was greatly boosted, and they now had an army of 20,000. Lin Muyu did not lead this group to Five Valleys City. Instead, he took them straight to Silver Fir City. Silver Fir City was not far from Five Valleys City, and it would allow the Flying Mount Battalion to avoid the chaos of war. At the same time, it could sit between Five Valleys City and Lanyan City. In any case, this flying mount battalion could not be handed over to Su Muyun and Su Qin. They arrived at Silver Fir City in the evening and set up camp outside the city. A group of commandants from the Flying Mount Battalion was sullen, so Lin Muyu called for an impromptu meeting to appease them. He also promised these generals that after the incident at Five Valley City, he would do his best to beg the emperor to save Long Qianlin's life. In fact, from a moral point of view, Lin Muyu also hoped that Long Qianlin's life could be saved. Among the 7 divine generals of the empire, Du Hai was iron-blooded and Xiang Yu was cruel. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others did not guard the borders. Lin Muyu had also heard of the other generals. Very few of them would treat human life as a big deal. This continent really needed a benevolent general like Long Qianlin. After nightfall, a messenger bird quietly landed at the head of Lin Muyu's bed. She took the letter tube. There was a piece of paper inside with a line of words written on it. "Milord, the captain of the Flame Dragon mercenary band, by Lixing, has led 9,000 Flame Dragon mercenaries, and together with 7,000 mercenaries from the Ghost Domain mercenary band, a total of 16,000 people have surrounded the Dragon Rocky Mountain. They have threatened to destroy the Longdan army camp. Our army can only defend and not leave. They hope that Milord can send reinforcements immediately. Luo Yu, the Longdan army camp has been surrounded." Lin Muyu let out a sigh. It just so happened that she had an army of 20,000 cavalry under her command. It could be put to good use. She quickly wrote back, "Defend and not leave. Wait for reinforcements." Chapter 236. On Dragon Rocky Mountain, the flames of war spread. The foot of the mountain was surrounded, and all kinds of flags were fluttering. The Flame Dragon Mercenary Corps and the Ghost Mercenary Corps were the 2 largest unregistered wandering mercenary corps in the North Ridge province. They were also known as the 2 largest rogue corps in the capital. In their eyes, there was no law at all. The only rule was the survival of the fittest. Moreover, the power of these mercenary corps was so strong that the local army of the Qin Empire could do nothing to them. They just let them fight and annex each other. As long as these wandering mercenaries did not attack the government, they would not cause too much chaos. In the big tent of the Flame Dragon Mercenary Corps, the captain, Bailey Xing, was wearing a fiery red armor. He held a scimitar with his bare arms and held a maid in his arms. He picked up a piece of meat with the scimitar and fed it to the maid. Although the maid was smiling, she was trembling all over. If she was not careful, the scimitar would pierce through her head. This kind of thing was not uncommon. Good girl." Bailey Xing smiled and grabbed the maid's chest. He said with a smile, "We have surrounded Dragon Rocky Mountain and cut off their water supply. Let's see how long Luo Yu and Fengshi can hold on." At the table opposite him, a general in a leather robe also held a beautiful woman in his arms. It was Li Sihua, the captain of the Ghost Mercenary Corps. His face was crisscrossed with more than a dozen scars. His palm moved up and down the legs of the beautiful woman in his arms. He sneered with disdain and said, "It is said that the founder of the Longdan army camp is Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. Isn't Captain Bailey afraid that Lin Muyu and the Imperial Guards will make trouble for you?" Bailey Xing couldn't help laughing. The Emperor has the final say in Lanyan City, but in the dragon-seeking forest, does he still have the final say? The Imperial Guards. Bah! The Imperial Guards are nothing in the dragon-seeking forest. I have killed so many people, but I have never killed an Imperial Guard. If Lin Muyu really dares to come, I will not let him leave. Brother Li Sihua, are you afraid? Li Sihua raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "What am I afraid of? We have a total of 16,000 soldiers. How many people are there on Dragon Cliff? Heh. As long as we destroy the Longdan army camp, I'll say it first, all of their warhorses and weapons will belong to our Ghost Domain mercenary group." Bai Lixing nodded. "Got it. You're really troublesome. You can have it, but this mountain and the prisoners of war in the Longdan army camp will all belong to me. What do you think?" "Great. Let's destroy the Longdan army camp first, then the Tyrant Blade mercenary group, and then the Sacred Flame mercenary group. Then, no one in the North Ridge province will dare to challenge us. Ha ha ha, let's drink and wait for Luo Yu to come down the mountain and surrender. Yes, haha, just as the two of them were happily drinking, a mercenary suddenly opened the tent flap and walked in. He knelt down nervously and said, "Captain, something bad has happened. Why are you in such a hurry? You're ruining my mood." Bai Lixing raised his eyebrows. "Captain, the scouts have reported that about 20,000 soldiers of the Empire carrying the flag of the Flying Mount camp are charging in the direction of Dragon Cliff Mountain. They're less than 5 kilometers away from here. They'll arrive in 10 minutes. What?" Bai Lixing couldn't sit still. He pushed away the maid in his arms, stood up, and shouted, "How is that possible? Isn't the Flying Mount camp stationed in Sangnan province? What are they doing in the North Ridge province? Besides, we pay tribute to that old fox Hu Tianning every year. What does he mean by doing this?" The messenger trembled and said, "Captain, the person leading the Flying Mount camp isn't Long Qianlin. If it's not Long Qianlin, who else can it be? Don't tell me Hu Tianning is leading the troops personally." No, it's Lin Muyu. Bulsh *T. Lin Muyu and Long Qianlin have fought before. How could he be leading the Flying Mount camp? The scout must have made a mistake. This group of bastards dared to drink when they went out to be sentries. I'll skin them alive when I get back. The messenger was on the verge of tears. Regiment commander, the scout said that what he saw was absolutely true. They are all heavy cavalry, and they will be able to reach the foot of the mountain in 10 minutes. We can't just sit here and wait for death. Bai Lixing roared and kicked the table away. His face was pale. He said, "What can we do in 10 minutes?" Li Sihua stood up and said loudly, "Pass down my order. The Ghost Mercenary Corps is to assemble immediately and retreat to the west. We can't stay here any longer." Bai Lixing said angrily, "Li Sihua, what do you mean? Are you going to be a coward at this critical moment? I was forced to come here by you. I don't want to be buried with you." Li Sihua grabbed his long sword and rushed out of the camp. He mounted his horse and shouted, "Ghost Mercenary Corps, retreat." But not far away, a platoon leader said with a bitter face, "Commander, we can't retreat anymore. A group of heavy cavalry from Muyu City has blocked our path of retreat, and hundreds of our brothers have already been shot dead." "What?" Li Sihua's body trembled. "Damn it, let's fight them. Lin Muyu, I'll *CK your grandma." At the foot of Dragon Rocky Mountain, the two mercenary corps were in a mess. But at this moment, the gate on the mountain suddenly opened. Luo Yu led about 5,000 plus heavy cavalries from the Longdan army camp and attacked from the foot of the mountain. From the east, west, and south, the rumbling of war drums could be heard. The Empire's military flags were fluttering in the wind. Numerous elite cavalries had already surrounded them. Most of the mercenary groups were infantrymen. How could they escape? Even if they tried to escape, they would only become the target of the cavalry's attacks. Bai Lixing and Li Sihua were not stupid. Fighting with 20,000 regular cavalrymen on an open field was simply courting death. Moreover, there was still the courage of Dragon Battalion's cavalrymen behind them, who were no weaker than regular soldiers. Hua! A white flag was raised in Bai Lixing's hand. With an ashen face, he said loudly, "Fiery Dragon. Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps is willing to surrender, willing to surrender. We surrender, please spare our lives." Amidst the clanking sounds, 16,000 people from the two mercenary corps actually surrendered without a fight. Their weapons were thrown on the ground. The mercenaries were so scared by the regular soldiers that their faces turned pale. They knelt on the ground and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Lin Muyu rode out of the crowd with a few captain cavalry. She couldn't help but laugh secretly. What a motley crew. With this kind of combat power, they actually dare to occupy the mountain and call themselves kings. It's ridiculous. one of the captain cavalry laughed and said, "General, they must have been frightened by the reputation of the Flying Mount camp." Another commandant wiped the bloodstains off his saber and said with a smile, "I don't think so. They must have been scared out of their wits by the hundreds of people we killed earlier." "We killed hundreds of them, but we didn't even lose 10 of our own men." Lin Muyu rode over and looked at Li Sihua and Bai Lixing. She asked, "You two are the commanders of the Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps and the Ghost Hunter Mercenary Corps?" "Yes." Bai Lixing knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. "I'm Bai Lixing, the commander of the Fiery Dragon Mercenary Corps. I'm willing to lead my 9,000 brothers to surrender to the Longdan Army camp. Please accept us." "I heard that the Longdan Army camp has the positions of Commander, Deputy Commander, Dragon Commander, and Tiger Commander. I, Bai Lixing, only want to be a Dragon Commander." Lin Muyu looked at him disdainfully and said with a faint smile, "But the Longdan Army camp only wants dragons, not dogs." "Commander Bai Lixing, how many bad things have you done? Do you still want to join the Longdan Army camp?" Bai Lixing hurriedly said, "I didn't do that." "Don't listen to other people's nonsense." At this moment, Luo Yu and Feng Shi rushed over. After cupping their fists, Luo Yu sneered and said, "My lady, this Bai Lixing has been tyrannical in his area of influence for so many years. He is known as a local tiger. It is said that he has 52 concubines, and his hands are full of blood debts. A month ago, they slaughtered a village in Linzhong Commandery. That night, Bai Lixing killed 17 people with one saber." "I see." Lin Muyu turned over and got off the horse. She raised her hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword. She smiled at Bai Lixing and said, "Turn your head away. It's better if you don't see this kind of scene." Bai Lixing trembled all over. He raised his head and said, "My lady, you want to kill me?" "Yes. You want to kill me?" Bai Lixing suddenly revealed his fierceness. He grabbed the scimitar and rushed over. However, Lin Muyu's speed was faster. She gently swung her left arm, and a faint golden dragon coiled around it. The blow directly hit Bai Lixing's back. Suddenly, Bai Lixing spat out a mouthful of blood and knelt on the ground again. He didn't have any strength to fight back. Swoosh! The blade swept past, and a head rolled out. Bai Lixing had been decapitated cleanly. A group of Flying Mount Battalion's commandants were stunned. They could see that Bai Lixing's strength was not bad. He was already at the 3rd firmament of the Earth realm. However, such a strong man didn't even last one round under Lin Muyu's sword. In an instant, they were in awe. Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yan, wasn't as gentle as she looked. Once she became ruthless, she wasn't inferior to Long Qianlin. "Behead Li Sihua of the Ghost Domain Mercenary Group." Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. She said, "Let these mercenaries identify each other. Behead all those who have killed civilians. The rest who are willing to stay in the Longdan Army camp can stay. Those who are unwilling can be dismissed. From now on, the Flame Dragon Mercenary Group and the Ghost Domain Mercenary Group will no longer exist in this world." Luo Yu smiled slightly. "Yes, my lady." Feng Shi led everyone to do as she said. At this time, a Flying Mount Battalion's commandant walked forward and whispered, "General, isn't it a little too cruel?" Lin Muyu didn't deny it. She said, "Yes, but so what? A life for a life. This is my rule." My lady is wise. In just half a day, 2 mercenary groups ranked 6th and 8th among the top 10 mercenary groups in Northridge Province disappeared. More than 500 people were executed on the spot, more than 11,000 people were dismissed, and more than 4,000 people were selected to join the Longdan Army camp. At this point, the Longdan Army camp had nearly 14,000 soldiers. It had become the most powerful mercenary group in Northridge Province. Moreover, it had a registered identity and was in existence that complied with the Empire's laws. While Luo Yu and the others were arranging people to bury the corpses, Lin Muyu had already mounted her horse. She ordered, "Flying Mount Battalion, return to Silver Fir City. The majestic heavy cavalry left Dragon Rocky Mountain in the blink of an eye. Perhaps there were more important things waiting for them. Chapter 237. In Five Valley City, the cold wind blew the fallen leaves across the city wall. The two soldiers standing guard couldn't help but shiver. Zhang-san, what do you see over there? What? At the end of the road. Smoke and dust are billowing. Can you feel the vibration of the earth? Yes. Oh my God, what is that? It's heavy cavalry. In an instant, the two soldiers looked at the city wall with an ashen face, only to see a man in the uniform of a Chiliarch riding a horse past and shouting, "Close the city gate and prepare for defense. From now on, no one is allowed to enter or leave Five Valley City. Someone, immediately sound the war drums for me to warn the enemy from afar." Dong 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 dong, the sound of the war drums echoed and shook the entire Five Valley City. In the governor's office of Five Valley City, Hu Tianning sat there anxiously, frowning and said, "How could this be? How could this be? Where did Long Qianlun go? Where is his flying mount camp? Where is he when Sangnan province needs him the most?" On the side, a masked official with a black veil on his face cupped his fists and said, "Lord Governor, General Long led the flying mount camp to 3 Mountain Pass for training a few days ago. Is this your order? Mr. Su, please ask me, what should I do now?" Hu Tianning was already confused. Mr. Su looked calm and said indifferently, "Lord Governor, since Su Qin dared to lead the Mu City's iron cavalry to Five Valley City to denounce us, it means that His Majesty already knows about our private coinage. Su Qin only dared to come under His Majesty's imperial edict. At this time, if we send troops to fight, it is tantamount to confirming the crime of rebellion. Either way, we will die. In my opinion, it is better for us to go out of the city to meet Su Qin's army. Maybe there will be room for negotiation." Room for negotiation? Hu Tianning paced back and forth restlessly and said, "Private coinage is a capital crime. What room for negotiation is there?" "Sir, don't forget." Mr. Su smiled and said, "Your nephew, General Xiangyu, is still serving as the commander of the military police in the capital. He is in charge of the rewards and punishments for all the high-ranking generals in the imperial army. Even Su Qin is wary of Xiangyu. Moreover, you have always been on good terms with Divine Marquis. Even if you are escorted to the capital by Su Qin, as long as Divine Marquis and Xiangyu work together to persuade His Majesty to give you a lighter sentence, you can still keep your life. As long as you are alive, with our financial resources, why should we worry about not being able to make a comeback?" Hu Tianning's eyes lit up and he said, "Mister, you mean, my only choice is to leave the city and surrender now?" "Yes." Mr. Su's eyes were bright as he said, "It's better than fighting to the death." "Don't worry, my lord, you've been operating in Blue South Province for many years and have many disciples. Moreover, we've already stored tens of millions of Jinxin coins near the Qinling Mountains. This subordinate will immediately order someone to bring the gold banknotes to the southern ridge and ask the king of South subduing Qin Yi to plead on your behalf. Even if we can't keep the governorship, we can at least fight for the position of governor of Silver Fir City for you. What does my lord think?" "Okay, do it immediately." "Yes." Mr. Su quickly turned around and ordered his subordinates. He then walked over and said, "My lord, change your clothes. We should leave the city to welcome Su Qin's army. This Su Qin is known as the most powerful general in the empire. He may not have the patience to wait for us to delay." "Yes." Hu Tianning put on the governor's uniform and armor as he asked, "How many soldiers are left in the city?" Mr. Su said, 17,000 of the Flying Mount Battalion have been led out of the city by General Long. There are less than 30,000 soldiers in the city. According to reports, there are 70,000 heavy cavalry of Mu City outside the city. Su Qin and Su have led the Steel Blade Army and the Zither Dragon Army to the city first. They are determined to take Five Valleys City. My lord, we should prepare the governor's seal of Blue South Province. That's the only way. Hu Tianning took the seal from his subordinate and caressed the iron box with reluctance. His face was full of sadness as he said, I didn't expect that I, Hu Tianning, would have such a day. Sigh. If I knew this day would come, I wouldn't have conspired with the House of Chivalry to mint coins. Damn it. It's all Lin Muyu's fault. Otherwise, the secret of minting coins would not have been exposed. My lord, it's too late to talk about it now. Let's go. Okay. Amidst the sound of the war drums, the heavy cavalry of Muyu City outside the city was also noisy. They hit their shields with their swords and shouted together, Hu Tianning, go out of the city to welcome the great general. Hu Tianning, go out of the city to welcome the great general. Su Qin, dressed in military attire and carrying a saber, rode a sturdy black warhorse and stood under the city wall. He raised his long saber and loudly said to the group of guards on the city wall, Su Qin had been ordered by His Majesty to arrest Hu Tianning. Don't be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'll give you the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. If you don't open the city gate, I will attack the city with 3 armies. I want to see whether the walls of the 5 valleys city are thicker or the spears of my iron blade army are sharper. The guard on the city wall cupped his fists and said, Great General, this must be a misunderstanding. My lord has always been doing his duty. Why would His Majesty come to arrest my lord? I hope that the great general will investigate. What am I supposed to know? Su Qin shouted, Open the gate now, or I'll smash this broken gate with my saber. The guard on the city wall raised his eyebrows and said, Great General, no matter what, the 5 Valleys city is the central city of Jianghu province. How can you attack as you please? Great General, don't force me. Archers, stand by. If anyone attacks the city, immediately shoot them down. You. Su Qin was furious. He pulled the reins and turned around. When he arrived in front of a group of Iron Blade Army's heavy cavalry, he raised his long saber and shouted, The time has come to quell the rebellion for the empire. The governor of the 5 Valleys city, Hu Tianning, is stubborn. Brothers, prepare to attack the city. The war drums sounded like thunder. The heavy cavalry outside the city mounted their horses and prepared to attack. At this moment, with a sudden creak, the heavy iron gate slowly rose. When the gate was completely opened, Hu Tianning appeared in his field of vision with a group of advisors. Su Qin frowned. On the side, a female general of about 30 years old rode a white horse. She looked somewhat similar to Qin Yin. She was Su Yun's younger sister, Su Yu. Su Yu looked at Hu Tianning and the others from afar. She couldn't help but smile and said, Big brother, it seems that we don't need to attack the city anymore. Hu Tianning, that old fox, knows that he can't do anything and has already compromised. Heh, Su Qin smiled slightly and led a group of cavalry forward. He placed the long saber on the back of the horse and smiled, Governor Hu Tianning, long time no see. Hu Tianning hurriedly turned over and dismounted, knelt on the ground, held the governor's seal in his hand and said, Sinner Hu Tianning greets General Su Qin. Although I don't know why His Majesty has punished me, if the Emperor wants me to die, I have no choice but to die. This is the governor's seal of Jianghu province, please examine it. That's good, Lord Hu is really a sensible person. Su Qin smiled and said, But I still have to do things according to the rules. Someone, bring me the prisoner carriage and help the governor get on it. Also, take over the entire 5 Valleys city. Yes. A group of Muyu city soldiers pushed out a prisoner carriage made of steel. This prisoner carriage was very strange. There were thorns protruding from all sides, surrounding the center. It can be imagined that once a prisoner enters the carriage, he will not be able to move. Otherwise, his skin will be pierced by the thorns. This kind of pain can be imagined. Thorn carriage. There was a trace of anger on Hu Tianning's face. General, what do you mean by this? Are you going to use the thorn carriage on me? What? Su Qin raised his eyebrows. If you have the guts to mint coins, don't tell me you don't have the guts to sit on this thorn carriage. You. Hu Tianning was furious. Mr. Su on the side whispered, "Lord Governor, bear with it for a while. Su Qin is a reckless man. There is no benefit in clashing with him." After hearing this, Hu Tianning no longer said anything. He tidied up his clothes and armor, and said, "Then as General Su Qin wishes." Su Qin lightly said, "Someone, help Lord Hu Tianning remove his armor." Several heavy cavalry flew forward and quickly took off Hu Tianning's armor. Hu Tianning had never suffered such humiliation. His face was red, but he was angry. Suddenly, a soldier's hand touched Hu Tianning's body. He immediately raised his hand and pulled out the sword at his waist, saying, "How dare you?" Just as Hu Tianning pulled out the sword, a whoosh sound of an arrow leaving the bowstring suddenly came from behind Su Qin. The next moment, a black arrow pierced through Hu Tianning's neck with a poochie sound. Fresh blood flowed out like a pool. Hu Tianning's arm, which was holding the sword, was still in the air. His body slowly fell backward, and he died in an instant. Hu Tianning, dead. Su Qin stood there dumbfounded. He suddenly turned around and looked at the person who shot the arrow. He loudly shouted, "Zhang Santong, you bastard, why did you kill Hu Tianning?" Zhang Santong was a deputy general. Still holding his longbow, he cupped his fists and said, "General, Hu Tianning just pulled out his sword and tried to assassinate you." This subordinate shot him. Su Qin was speechless and angrily said, "Bastard, Her Majesty and Her Highness never said that they wanted to kill Hu Tianning. You are simply putting me in an unjust situation." Zhang Santong hurriedly dismounted from his horse and knelt on the ground, saying, "This subordinate is willing to die. General, please punish me." Forget it. Su Qin looked at Hu Tianning's body and lightly said, "If he dies, then he dies." This kind of villain. At this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. A person holding an iron spear shouted in the crowd, "Get out of the way, get out of the way. Let me pass." The person who came was none other than Long Qianlin, who was in a hurry. The pitiful Long Qianlin saw the corpse of his father-in-law, Hu Tianning, after entering the crowd. The arrow that had pierced through Hu Tianning's throat was stained with black blood. For a moment, Long Qianlin trembled all over. He suddenly dismounted from his horse and knelt on the ground. Tears flowed from his eyes. Sir, you are Long Qianlin?" Su Qin rode his horse over and lightly asked. Long Qianlin didn't say anything. He just carried Hu Tianning's corpse and walked step by step towards the Five Valleys city. "Stop right there!" Su Qin violently shouted, "Long Qianlin, how dare you!" At this moment, Long Qianlin had already reached the city gate. When he looked back, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He angrily shouted, "Close the city gate and fight!" Chapter 238. Bang! The heavy iron gate slammed down. Long Qianlin handed Hu Tianning's corpse to a deputy general, then he carried his spear and rushed up the city wall. He shouted, "I, Long Qianlin, have returned. Close the city gates and prepare for battle. Archers, get ready, throw stones, and roll logs." In terms of prestige in the Five Valleys City Army, Long Qianlin was absolutely second to none. A group of soldiers who were in a trance immediately became spirited after Long Qianlin arrived. They seemed to understand what they should do in an instant. Su Qin was furious when he saw the tense atmosphere on the city wall. He pointed his long saber at the city wall and shouted, "Long Qianlin, Hu Tianning's death was just an accident. Don't be stubborn, or you'll be the one to regret it." Long Qianlin proudly looked at the city wall. The governor's death was an accident? Ha 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 ha. What a big joke. Then today I want you, Su Qin, to die under the Five Valleys city. Consider it an accident. How dare you? Su Qin shouted, "3 armies, attack the city." The heavy cavalry dismounted one after another, raised their shields and rushed to the city wall. Because they came in a hurry, they did not prepare any siege equipment at all. Only a simple battering ram, protected by a group of heavy cavalry, rushed to the city gate. "Release the arrows," Long Qianlin quickly ordered from the city wall. For a time, arrows fell like rain. Although most of the heavy cavalry's bodies were protected by armor, after all, their necks, faces, and other positions could not be protected. In an instant, hundreds of people were killed. In addition, huge stones fell from the city wall, smashing the soldiers into a pile of minced meat. In an instant, Su Qin was furious. "Big brother." Su Er frowned slightly and said, "At first, we did not think of attacking the city, so the heavy cavalry came to the city. But now it has become a siege. In my opinion, we should wait for Father's army to arrive. They brought ladders, catapults, and other equipment. Otherwise, if we attack the city like this, it is tantamount to sending the heavy cavalry to their deaths." Su Qin clenched his fists and said angrily, "That damn Long Qianlin, I will definitely tear him to pieces. Retreat." But just as the heavy cavalry of Muyu City retreated, Long Qianlin raised his hand with a murderous look on his face and said, "Men, prepare the spear and shield formation. Let's give these northern boars a taste of our power." The city gate opened, and about 1,000 plus soldiers of the Five Valleys city came out of the city. They were all soldiers armed with spears and heavy shields. These soldiers were carefully selected. Each of them was very strong and had amazing arm strength. The 1,000 plus people lined up in 10 buckets at the foot of the city. They were shouting, provoking and ridiculing Su Qin in the distance. "Bastard!" Su Qin waved his long blade and more than 2,000 heavy cavalry rushed over. The heavy cavalry of Muyu City were all carrying javelins. Before they got close, they threw a round of javelins. But after Long Qianlin, who was on the city wall, shouted, "Gather," the soldiers of the spear and shield formation assembled their shields like an iron wall. The javelins were deflected with a ding-dang-dang-dang sound, unable to hurt them at all. When the heavy cavalry was in close combat, Long Qianlin shouted, "Open." In an instant, the shields separated as if they were decomposing. An iron spear quickly penetrated through the gaps of the shields and pierced the warhorses. At the same time, the round bucket formation rotated rapidly, diffusing the impact of the cavalry. Like a meat grinder, the heavy cavalry of Muyu City were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Blood quickly spread under the city wall. "Archers, aim and shoot." Long Qianlin continued to order. The soldiers with superb archery skills on the city wall began to shoot one by one. In the blink of an eye, another batch of heavy cavalry of Muyu City fell. The warhorses neighed incessantly. In less than 10 minutes, less than 500 of the 2,000 heavy cavalry were left, while the spear and shield formation of Five Valleys City had lost less than 100 people. Su Yu couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Big brother, we can't fight like this, let the soldiers come back." Su Qin gritted his teeth, clenched his fists and said, "Come back." Su Qin was filled with hatred as he gazed at this city that was famous for its 5 grains and fisheries, and he said, "I swear that I'll definitely raze this city to the ground. Long Qianlin, you bastard. I'll fucking tear you apart." In the blink of an eye, night fell. Outside the city, the 70,000 soldiers of Muyu City set up camp. The lights connected for nearly 10 miles, but the city was no longer as quiet as before. Even the people were helping to carry stones, rolling logs, and so on to protect the city. Long Qianlin's face was pale. He carried his spear and walked step by step on the stone steps of the city wall. Mr. Su walked beside him and said, "General Long. The governor's body, let's go out of the city and bury him." Long Qianlin frowned and asked, "What's the situation at the south gate of Five Valleys City?" "They have sent about 10,000 people to guard it. They can't break through for the time being." "I see." Long Qianlin looked up at the sky and said, "Tonight is cloudy, the stars and moon are dim. Prepare to attack Su Qin's camp at night." "Attack at night?" Mr. Su was startled. Although Su Qin is reckless, he is also a man who has been in the army for a long time. It is impossible for him not to guess that we will attack his camp at night. Long Qianlin smiled faintly and said, "Yes. I also know that, but we have no other choice. Tonight, at midnight, I will personally lead 5,000 cavalrymen out of the city for a night raid and attack Su Qin's main camp. Mr. Su, half an hour after I leave the city for the night raid, you will open the 5 southern gates and lead the remaining people out of the city to break out of the encirclement. Take all the family members with you. I will entrust Xiaoyun to Mr.'s care." "General," Mr. Su said with a trembling voice, where can we go after we break through? This whole world belongs to the Emperor. Where else can we go after committing such a rebellious act?" Long Qianlin took a deep breath. "Although the land of the northern ridge is vast, there is no place for us to stand. Let's go to the Lingnan. The 4 provinces south of the Qinling Mountains can be our hiding place. By the way, let's go to the Mingshan province, Yu City near Shenyang City. My cousin Lin Yu is in Yu City. If we go to him, I believe the Empire will not chase us there." "General Lin Yu?" Mr. Su was speechless. Lin Yu, one of the legendary 7 divine generals of the Empire, is General's cousin? "Yes, my hometown was originally in Yu City." "Go, Mr. Su, go and prepare. We don't have much time. If I, Long Qianlin, can break through alive, I will go find you and Xiaoyun." "Yes." Mr. Su cupped his fists, knelt on the ground and said, "All the living people of 5 Valleys City will thank General for your kindness. That Su Qin is reckless and cruel. He has been continuously defeated by General. Once the city is breached, he will definitely slaughter everyone." Yes, late at night, several gates of the north gate of 5 Valleys City opened quietly. More than 5,000 cavalrymen, their hooves wrapped in cloth, quickly left the city and went straight to Su Qin's camp in the distance. Long Qianlin held his iron spear, his face was resolute. He desperately whipped his warhorse, as if he wanted to turn into a gust of wind and blow away the Mu City army in front of him. Boom! Suddenly, there was a collapse in front of them. Dozens of cavalrymen fell into the pit. The other side was already prepared. "Continue to charge, don't stop." Long Qianlin ordered loudly, "Front, both flanks, cover with shields, be careful of their bows and arrows." Sure enough, as he expected, countless arrows flew out from both sides of the jungle and bounced off the shields. Of course, many of them directly shot into the bodies of the 5 Valleys City cavalrymen. Miserable howls were heard, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. At the very front, there was a blazing fire. An entire formation of heavy cavalry was already waiting there. Su Qin held the long saber and the reins, his face full of killing intent. "Don't even think about leaving this place alive today. Kill." Long Qianlin led the crowd and rushed over without saying a word. In an instant, the cavalry of both sides collided and fought. Long Qianlin urged his horse to gallop. His martial spirit burst out, and the iron spear, like a swimming dragon, continuously penetrated the necks of the opponent's heavy cavalry. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. His battle robe was full of blood, like a god of war. Behind Long Qianlin, about 1,000 heavy cavalry of the 5 Valleys City followed the god of war closely. There was only one voice in the hearts of the soldiers: "Follow him, and we can rush out alive." On the other hand, Su Qin was not to be trifled with. His long blade contained the light of Do Qi, and he swept out again and again, chopping off heads. If Long Qianlin was a god of war, then Su Qin could be called a god of death. Moreover, the number of heavy cavalry of the Iron Blade army far exceeded the opponent. Su Qin constantly ordered the division tactics, and soon, the 5,000 people brought by Long Qianlin were divided into 7 or 8 pieces, and were digested little by little. In the middle of the night, the sounds of fighting soared to the sky, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of gods. Screams were everywhere in the jungle, and broken limbs fell on the grass. Life faded away with the wind. Almost everyone's eyes were bloodshot, especially Long Qianlin. He led more than 1,000 heavy cavalry to repeatedly clash, as if he was entering an uninhabited land. Even in the face of opponents several times his own, he still fearlessly rushed over, as if he was born to kill. The more he fought, the fewer people there were, but more and more people died under Long Qianlin's spear. While charging, Long Qianlin calculated the time. Not long after, the spearhead suddenly shook and drilled into the mouth of a heavy cavalry of Mu City. After a spray of blood, he shouted, "Follow me, break out of the encirclement." However, there were only more than 300 people left. Not long after the charge, a strong enemy appeared in front of them. It was the heavy cavalry of the Zither Dragon army led by Su Yu. Kill! Long Qianlin rushed over without fear, and his spear was sent out like a dragon. Dang! It was shaken away by Su Yu's sword. But he did not stop. He raised his spear horizontally and gently pushed it back, hitting the back of Su Yu's waist. In the game on the battlefield, Long Qianlin's ability seemed to be firmly above Su Qin and Su Yu. At this time, at the south gate of Five Valley City, flames soared to the sky. Nearly 30,000 Five Valley City soldiers forcibly broke through, but they were wantonly killed by more than 10,000 heavy cavalry of Mu City. It was as if the heavens and earth were moved. Soon after, snowflakes fell on the already cold corpses, not melting. Achoo! In the flying mount camp of Kathaya City, under the candlelight, Lin Muyu, who was studying the 7 volumes of victorious tactics passed down by Xiang Wentian, suddenly shivered. He frowned and asked, "What time is it?" A guard replied, "It's the 3rd, General." "Is there any news from Five Valley City?" "Not yet." But Lin Muyu's heart was faintly uneasy. He put down the military book and looked up, passed down the order. The 3 armies immediately set out and rushed to Five Valley City overnight. "It should be now, yes, General." Chapter 239. Early in the morning, the snow was still falling. Clouds of smoke rose into the sky around the Five Valley City. Corpses could be seen everywhere. All the civilians in the city did not dare to leave the city. Outside the north gate, a group of exhausted cavalrymen were dragging the corpses. According to the rules of the empire, the soldiers who died in battle were not qualified to be buried in their hometown. It was the same for the generals who were below the rank of centurion. All of them were buried on the spot to avoid the stench of the corpses. As if smelling the scent of blood, some wild dogs came out of the jungle to the north of the Five Valley City, devouring the corpses everywhere. Even some young wolves appeared in groups, tearing the corpses of the dead soldiers. The scene looked a little unbearable to watch. After people died, there was no distinction. Whether it was the people of the Five Valleys City or the people of the Mu City, their corpses had become the prey of wild beasts. Tuck tuck tuck, Su Qin's face was ashen. He let the snow fall on his shoulders and head. He looked at the tragic scene on the battlefield and said, "How many of them escaped?" Deputy General Zhang Santong cupped his fists and said, reporting to General, "Less than 20. "Did you find Long Qianlin's body?" "No, bastard." Su Qin punched the saddle and said, "We had 70,000 men surrounding the city and Long Qianlin escaped. This is a great shame for the Iron Blade Army." Zhang Santong's face was pale and he did not dare to say anything. At this moment, Su Yu, who was inspecting the battlefield, also rode her horse over. Her originally elegant face was stained with blood. She raised her hand to wipe it off, but she did not manage to wipe anything off. She walked towards Su Qin and said, "Big brother. I've been to the southern battlefield. How is the situation?" Su Qin asked. Su Yu moved her red lips and wanted to say something but stopped. I asked you how is the situation?" Su Qin said with a heavy tone. Su Yu took a deep breath and said, "Big brother, the 10,000 cavalrymen we arranged at the south gate suffered a fierce attack last night. The defenders in the city rushed out and caused great damage to us." "How many people did we lose?" "Tell me." "More than 7,000 died, more than 2,000 were seriously injured and 4,000 to 5,000 were lightly injured." Su Yu said. "What?" Su Qin's body trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with hatred as he said, "That traitor Long Qianlin. He killed a total of 20,000 elite cavalrymen of my Twilight Reign city in a single battle. What a goddamn traitor." With that, Su Qin's body shook slightly and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The arrow wound on his chest oozed blood again. "Big brother, are you okay?" Su Yu asked. I'm fine." Su Qin looked at the Five Valleys city with a pair of cold eyes, and murmured, "The warriors of Cloud Province have suffered such a setback in this cursed city. It's all my fault. Come on, pass down my order. After the three armies are reorganized, enter the Five Valleys city and slaughter the city." He said it casually, but Su Yu's whole body trembled. "Big brother, how could we do this? Why not?" Su Qin's eyes were cold as he said, "That's what our ancestors did. Any city that dares to rebel will be massacred. If we don't massacre them, how will these ambitious dogs know that the prestige of the empire cannot be violated?" "Ah, you don't have to say anything. I know you have good intentions. Leave this matter to me." "But big brother." Su Yu sighed and said, "The Five Valleys city is one of the 7 major cities of the empire. It has a population of 2.4 million. Are you planning to kill all 2.4 million people? No, massacre the city for 3 days. Kill as many as you can." Su Qin clenched his fists and said, "I've made up my mind. No one should say anything else. Otherwise, you will be punished according to military law." A trace of disappointment flashed across Su Yu's face. She cupped her fists respectfully and said, "Yes, General. This subordinate has no objections." Heavy snow was still falling on the ground. The Steel Blade Army and the Zither Dragon Army began to cook. Smoke rose from the chimneys. After breakfast, they would start a massacre. The order to massacre the city for 3 days had been issued. Apart from Su Yu, no one seemed to feel that there was anything wrong with it. There were too many precedents like this. The soldiers discussed animatedly with smiles on their faces. The unruly people of the Five Valleys city have raised a tiger in their bosom, allowing Hu Tianning to be so daring as to rebel. Humph, he deserves to be killed. A soldier with a face full of beard sneered as he drank the cold meat soup. Another soldier with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks said with a face full of lust, "Hey, let's make this clear. I'll choose first from the girls our Silver Spear Battalion has plundered. Wang Ergu, you pervert. Sooner or later you'll die on a woman's belly." A fat soldier laughed loudly. Wang Ergu said with a smile, "There's a saying that if you die under a peony flower, you'll be dissolute even as a ghost. I've long heard that the girls of the Five Valleys city are all plump and tender. Hey, I've never played with them before. This opportunity has finally come. Bullsh *T, haven't you played enough? Anyway, when we massacre the city later, let's compete and see who kills more unruly people. The one who kills the least will treat us, how about it?" Okay, it's a deal." Basically, this kind of conversation was going on in the barracks. Massacring the city was a disaster for the people, but for the soldiers who participated in the massacre, it was a crazy feast. Money, women, killing, lust, all of these would be infinitely magnified at this moment. At this moment, there was no longer any crime, only the most primitive desire. After breakfast, nearly 50,000 heavy cavalry mounted their horses, while Su Qin carried his long blade and stood in front of the crowd. At this moment, suddenly, a deputy general rode over with a group of about 300 plus Five Valleys city civilians behind him. The corner of his mouth had a sinister smile as he said, "General, this group of unruly people actually wanted to secretly escape from the slope of the city wall on the west side. I discovered them in time and have specially come to hand them over to the general to deal with." Su Qin's eyes were cold, and he stretched out his hand and made a kill gesture. "First Battalion, follow me," the deputy general shouted. The phalanx of 500 cavalrymen immediately rushed over, their spears piercing and their broadswords slashing. Puff, puff, puff. With a puff, puff, puff sound, blood spurted out, and screams sounded one after another. Regardless of the old or the young, they were all beheaded. In the blink of an eye, more than 300 civilians were dead, and finally, there was only a child about 4 or 5 years old left standing in the pile of corpses, crying loudly. Su Qin's eyes swept over and lightly asked, "What's wrong? Can't bear to do it?" Zhang Santong quickly raised his longbow, and with a whoosh, an arrow flew out and directly shot through the child's heart. The strength of the arrow was too fierce, and the arrow was infused with true qi, directly blasting a big hole in the child's chest. His entire heart was instantly crushed, and the child did not even have the chance to scream before he died. He died on the spot. Prepare to enter the city. Su Qin raised his long blade. But at this moment, the ground suddenly trembled slightly, and messy and dense sounds of horse hooves came from afar. Su Qin immediately frowned and asked, "What's going on?" A light cavalryman galloped over, cupped his fists, and said, reporting to the great general, the general of the south, Lin Muyu, is leading nearly 20,000 heavy cavalrymen on the main road. It seems to be the army of the Flying Mount Camp. "Oh, it's you." Su Qin laughed and said, "That kid transferred the Flying Mount Camp from Long Qianlin's hands, minimizing the losses of our army. It can be considered a great contribution. Since he is also here, then share some of the credit for the massacre of the city with him. Let's wait for a while, and let you lead his men into the Five Valleys city to massacre the city." Yes. Not long after, the neat silhouettes of the Flying Mount Camp soldiers appeared on the horizon. Lin Muyu, who was dressed in the white robe of the Divine Temple, rode his horse at the forefront. He could see Su Qin, Su Yu, and the mess around the battlefield from afar. He couldn't help but frown. Sure enough, things didn't go as smoothly as he had imagined. A fierce battle had finally broken out in the Five Valleys city. You're here?" Su Qin laughed and said, "Since you've taken control of the Flying Mount Camp, it's already a great contribution." Lin Muyu cupped his fists and said, "Your subordinate pays his respects to the great general." "Hey, why are you so polite?" Su Qin raised his arm and said, "Look, the Five Valleys city is already in our pocket. Long Qianlin is stubborn and has lost so many of my soldiers. It's really hateful. I've already given the order to massacre the city. Since you're here, I'll give you the credit. Now, lead your men into the city and kill to your heart's content." Massacre the city? Lin Muyu's body trembled. His eyes fell on the more than 300 corpses of the civilians in front of him. His heart was in turmoil. He turned to look at Su Qin and murmured, "General Su Qin, these civilians were killed by you?" "Yes, they tried to escape in vain. They only have themselves to blame." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu desperately suppressed his anger. He cupped his fists and said, "General, I think that since we've taken the city, we've already completed His Majesty's edict. There's no need to kill civilians anymore." "What did you say?" Su Qin was stunned. "These civilians and the traitors killed 20,000 of my Twilight Reign city's warriors. You're asking me not to massacre the city?" "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at him with a resolute gaze. Then, she pointed behind her and said, "There are 17,000 people from the Flying Mount Battalion behind me. Most of them are from Wugu City. Are you going to ask them to kill their own people?" "General, Hu Tianing's rebellion has nothing to do with these civilians. They're innocent." "Enough, Lin Muyu." Su Qin suddenly said sternly, "I didn't bother with you because you're the emperor's adopted son. But you dare to pester me like this? Get out of my way. I, Su Qin, will massacre the entire Five Valleys city." Lin Muyu was startled. He suddenly laughed at himself and pointed at the steel blade army behind Su Qin. He said loudly, "You're all soldiers of the empire. You're all familiar with the family's teachings. Tell me, as a soldier, isn't it your duty to guard the land and protect your own people? If you massacre the entire city, what qualifications do you have to wear the purple Yinhua emblem?" "Lin Muyu, how dare you?" Su Qin said angrily. Su Er rode forward and said, "You." "Enough, don't say any more." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and waved his hand. He shouted, "Flying Mount Camp, enter the city and defend it. Whoever dares to kill the people of the Five Valleys city will be our enemy. Kill without mercy." Chapter 240. Lin Muyu, how dare you? Su Qin was furious. He jumped from the horse's back, and his dou qi overflowed. He condescendingly slashed towards Lin Muyu, his eyes full of killing intent. This was probably the first time Su Qin had been humiliated like this. Lin Muyu looked up at Su Qin, her eyes full of contempt. Wang! The golden gourd marshal's soul came out of his body and instantly condensed into a golden gourd wall. Black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were added one after another. He was going to use the defense of his marshal's soul to take this attack. Bang! Light splashed, and Su Qin's attack was directly bounced back. But as a great general, how could he still have any face after such a collision? He raised his sword and slashed in an arc. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth, and his dou qi quickly poured into his left arm. His divine power was enshrouded in a golden dragon-shaped psionic energy, as if forming a shield, and blasted towards Su Qin's sword. Dang! The moment Su Qin's sword touched Lin Muyu's arm, there was a sound of metal colliding with stone, and the blade immediately collapsed. What? Su Qin turned around and landed on the horse. Looking at the short sword in his hand, the horror in his heart was extreme. This was a mysterious grade 3 treasure sword, yet it was blocked by Lin Muyu with his bare hands and broke. Enter the city. Taking advantage of Su Qin's shock, Lin Muyu waved his hand, and suddenly a group of cavalry captains of the Flying Mount Camp took advantage of the situation and led the army into the Five Valley City. At this moment, this group of cavalry captains really submitted to Lin Muyu, the temporary commander. They were willing to challenge Su Qin for the sake of the Five Valley City. In Lin Muyu, they even saw the shadow of Long Qianlin. Why are you doing this? Su Yu sighed. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and said, I am the adopted son of the emperor. Speaking of which, I should call you uncle or Aunt Luan. However, once the city is massacred, the empire will lose the hearts of the people of Five Valley City. This is not a price that the lives of 20,000 soldiers can pay. I hope uncle will think twice. Lin Muyu has no intention of disobedience. I just don't want uncle to disobey the emperor's order and massacre the city here. Indeed, Qin Jin's imperial edict had never mentioned massacring the entire city. Thus, as long as Lin Muyu spoke a few words in front of the emperor, even Su Qin would be in danger. Thinking of this, Su Qin gritted his teeth, cupped his fists, and said, General Lin is right. I was negligent. In that case, I will station my troops outside the city and wait for Father and Her Highness Yin to come. I will see what they have to say. All right. Lin Muyu turned his horse around and led the army to officially enter Five Valley City. At this moment, he had become the temporary master of Five Valley City. At this time, Five Valley City was already in chaos. Thieves were running rampant and looting everywhere. A large number of people were planning to escape from the south gate with their families. Many people seemed to have received the news that Su Qin was about to massacre the city, and they were all scared out of their wits. Seal all the city gates. As Lin Muyu walked, he said to the cavalry captain next to him, Send out the Flying Mount Battalion, a team of 10 people. Send more to maintain law and order in the city. Don't let the Five Valley City continue to be chaotic. Also, transfer 10,000 people to guard the city gates to prevent Su Qin from attacking the city. Yes, General. A cavalry captain followed closely and asked, General, will Commander Su Qin really attack the city? Probably not, but not necessarily. Restore the law and order of Five Valley City first. Yes. Another cavalry captain came over, cupped his fists and said, General, I have inquired about what you wanted to inquire about. Just yesterday, Hu Tianning went out of the city and offered Five Valley City to Su Qin, but he was shot and killed by one of Su Qin's deputy generals. This caused General Long Qianlin to lead the army to fight against the Iron Blade army. Late last night, Long Qianlin led 5,000 people to attack Su Qin's camp. He covered the rest of the people from the south gate and took Hu Tianning and Long Qianlin's families to the Qinling Mountains. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu stepped into the city lord's hall and said, "Did Long Qianlin break out in the end?" "I don't know. It was too chaotic last night. No one knows if General Long Qianlin managed to escape, but Su Qin has been looking for General Long's body, so General Long's whereabouts are unknown." Lin Muyu sighed, "I hope Long Qianlin can escape this disaster." The cavalry captain stepped forward, knelt on one knee, cupped his fists and said, "General Lin, on behalf of all the soldiers of Five Valley City, I thank the general. Thank you for saving the lives of millions of people in Five Valley City by yourself. Get up." Lin Muyu waved his hand and said, "His Majesty sent me and Highness Yin to Muyu City to ask for reinforcements, but he did not order me to slaughter the city. This is what I should do. If I really slaughter the people of Five Valley City today, I am afraid that His Majesty will leave a bad name in Sangnan province because of me." "Yes, General is wise. Don't talk so much, go and strengthen the city's defenses." "Yes, this general will go." At night, the servants of the governor's mansion prepared a quite sumptuous dinner. Lin Muyu asked the group of cavalry captains to stay for dinner. As for the 3,000 people brought from Muyu City, they were asked to leave the city and return to Su Qin's camp. It was not a good thing to keep them in the city, it was equivalent to putting a time bomb around them. Later, a group of civil officials entered the governor's hall and saluted. One of them unfolded a scroll and said, "General, we have been ordered to count the treasury of the governor's mansion. The details are as follows. There are more than 24 million Jinin coins, about 2,100 kilograms of gold, silver, and jade. In addition, there are countless antiques, more than 40,000 weapons, more than 3,000 calligraphy and paintings of famous people, and 200,000 stones of grain. Although Five Valley City is rich, most of the wealth has been taken away by Mr. Su and his troops." Lin Muyu frowned. "They brought so much gold and silver with them, do you think they can escape?" One of the cavalry captains stepped forward and whispered in Lin Muyu's ear, "General, the scouts reported that Su Qin has sent a 10,000-man cavalry team to chase after the governor's mansion's family 6 hours ago. This general suspects that Commander Su Qin's real intention is the gold and silver. Moreover, with Commander Su Qin's current temper, as long as he catches up, the family will most likely die. Should we send troops out of the city? What for?" Lin Muyu shook his head and said, "There is no need. I have already offended Commander Su Qin, I can't offend him again and again. Besides, it's too late to send people out now. Order the officials in the city to send food supplies to the 50,000 troops outside the city on time every day. No one can touch the gold and silver of the governor's mansion. Wait for the people sent by the imperial capital to count." "Yes." "No, what's wrong, sir?" "How many Jinin coins are in the governor's mansion's treasury?" 24 million. "Tell the clerk to record 24 million, and exchange the remaining 1 million into gold notes and give it to me. I can't protect the Five Valleys City for nothing." The cavalry commandant smiled. "All right, I'll do as you say." Soon after, 1 million gold notes were in his hands. They could be exchanged for Jinin coins at any gold bank in the empire, provided that there was enough cash in the gold bank. In fact, Lin Muyu originally did not intend to deduct the money from the Five Valleys City, but the Longdan army camp was expanding again and needed money too much. This money could not be allocated by the Ministry of Revenue of Lanyan City, so Lin Muyu could only think of a way herself. Besides, even if Lin Muyu did not use the 24 million Jinin coins, someone else would naturally use it. At that time, it would not be worth it. The next day, he directly sent 1 million gold notes to Luoyu. In this way, the Longdan army camp's recent expenses would definitely not be a problem. On the 7th day, Su Muyun and Qin Yin finally arrived. 100,000 infantrymen appeared in the Cangnan province and quickly recovered all the prefectures and counties. As a result, the power of the entire Cangnan province fell into the hands of Qin Yin. At noon, banners fluttered in the distance, and the advance guards arrived at the foot of the city. Lin Muyu ordered the city gates to be opened wide to welcome Qin Yin and Duke Yun. She also personally led the civil and military officials of the Five Valleys city out of the city to welcome them. A large group of people stood shivering in the snow and waited for more than an hour. Finally, Su Muyun, Qin Yin, and the others came out of the snow. At the same time, Su Qin and Su Yu also accompanied them. Big brother Yu. Qin Yin turned over and dismounted from the horse. She walked over with a smile. She had already changed into the princess cloak, and looked extremely graceful and luxurious. Lin Muyu walked forward and looked at Su Muyun from afar. Suddenly, she stood in the snow, crossed her fists in front of her chest, and gave an imperial military salute. She said in a deep voice, "Lin Muyu apologizes to Duke Yun." Su Muyun brushed off the snow on his shoulder armor and said with a smile, "You, what do you mean by apologizing to me?" Lin Muyu said, "I occupied the Five Valleys city without authorization and blocked Su Qin and Su Yu's army outside the city. Other than the crime of acting alone, I also committed the crime of disrespecting my elders. I asked Duke Yun to forgive me. So it's this." Su Muyun squinted his eyes and asked with a smile, Can you tell me why you stopped Su Qin from massacring the city?" Lin Muyu took a deep breath and looked up at Su Muyun, who was on the horse. She said, "Massacring the city can establish prestige, but His Majesty is a benevolent ruler. He doesn't need to do this. A little massacring the city will cause His Majesty to lose the people's support, and the consequences will be unimaginable. A wise ruler should be respected by the officials and loved by the people, not loved by the officials and respected by the people." Well said. Su Muyun laughed loudly and dismounted. He helped Lin Muyu up from the snow and said, I can rest assured with you assisting Xiao Yin in the future. Get up, get up. What crime did you commit? Come into the city with me." "Yes, Duke Yun." Although Su Muyun was very benevolent, Lin Muyu still felt a little unsettled. Many truths in this world were not as simple as they seemed on the surface, and the scene in front of her was no different. Not long after they entered the city, news came from afar. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, led 5,000 Imperial Guards and would arrive at the Five Valleys city in 2 hours. Moreover, they came under the Emperor's imperial edict. Chapter 241. Feng Jixing's face was full of respect as he held the golden imperial edict in his hands and walked up the stone steps of the governor's manor. Behind him, a group of high-ranking imperial army generals followed closely. Among them was a general with a face full of beard and 2 gold stars on his collar. His military rank was very high and he was the deputy commander of the imperial army, Si Kongfan. He was a powerhouse at the first level of Heaven Realm. Su Muyun, Su Qin, Lin Muyu, and the others knelt on one knee on the cold stone floor and said in unison, "We accept the imperial edict." Feng Jixing smiled and unfolded the scroll. "The fate of the great Qin is decided by the heavens and by the emperor. The emperor has ordered that General Su Qin will be rewarded with 10,000 hectares of fertile land and 100,000 Jinin coins for his contribution in quelling the rebellion." General Lin Muyu escorted Her Highness Qin Yin to Muyu City with the imperial edict and was rewarded with 100,000 Jinin coins. Today, the commander of the imperial army, Feng Jixing, will lead his troops to Wugu City to take over all the military and political power. The deputy commander of the imperial army, Si Kongfan, will be appointed as the governor of Cangnan province and will be in charge of all the military and political affairs in the province. The flying cavalry battalion that Lin Muyu controls will be handed over to Feng Jixing to bring back to Lanyan City. I have not seen General Yun for a long time. Please, General Yun, Su Qin, Su Yu, Her Highness Qin Yin, and Lin Muyu to return to Lanyan City together with me. All the troops of Muyu City must return to their camps within 3 days without any delay. I accept the imperial edict. Su Muyun slowly stood up and took the imperial edict from Feng Jixing's hands. Feng Jixing took a step forward and held Su Muyun's arm. He smiled and said, Duke Yun is old, but you are still able to work hard for the country. His Majesty has instructed before that Duke Yun is to go to Lanyan City with the etiquette of a duke. There's nothing you don't need. Su Muyun cupped his fists in gratitude and said to the West, Thank you, Your Majesty, for your grace. Su Qin said, General Feng, it's been a long journey. Let's rest in Five Valleys City tonight. Let's set off for Lanyan City tomorrow to meet His Majesty. What do you think? Of course. Feng Jixing smiled. I will listen to your arrangements. All right. Tonight, I'll set up a banquet at the governor's mansion. Don't leave until you're drunk. Yes. At dusk, the heavy snow had stopped. The setting sun brought with it a faint warmth as it shone on the administrative hall of the governor's mansion. Qin Yin was lazily lying on the chair beside the huge office table. She pushed away the documents on the table and stretched her body. At this moment, her demeanor was peerless and intoxicating. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and Si Kongfan swallowed their saliva at the same time. Big brother Yu, come here. Qin Yin smiled and beckoned. Lin Muyu stood up from the chair in front of the desk, hugged the silver helmet, and asked, What's wrong, Xiao Yin? Come here and help me take a look. Okay. He came to Qin Yin's side. Qin Yin naturally took his hand and said with a smile, Look at this military report. Five Valleys City originally had 120,000 soldiers. Now, there are only 60,000 soldiers? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. In the battle outside Five Valleys City, the 70,000 soldiers led by Su Qin and Long Qianlin's garrison suffered losses on both sides. That night, Long Qianlin commanded the garrison to escape with his family. Tens of thousands of people were chased and killed. In addition, more than 10,000 people from the Flying Mount camp have been removed from the provincial army. So, Cangnan province can be said to be short of soldiers and generals. I see. Qin Yin blinked and looked up at him. She suddenly smiled warmly and said, Uncle has a violent temperament. This matter has wronged you. You, don't be angry. Uncle is not a heinous person. It's just that sometimes his loyalty to the empire makes him unable to distinguish right from wrong. Yes, I know. At this time, Feng Jixing coughed and said, Your Highness, this time, it's all thanks to Yu's strong obstruction. Otherwise, once General Yu massacred the city, it would definitely shock the world. You should know, there hasn't been such a thing in the empire for decades. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid His Majesty would inevitably be labeled as a tyrant by the world. Qin Yin smiled slightly. Yes, I also understand this. Things have changed with the passage of time. Some of the laws and rules of the empire are obviously no longer in line with this era. After returning to Lanyan City, I will talk to my imperial father and let him issue a national edict to strictly abolish the law of massacring the city. Yes. Feng Jixing cupped his fists. Then, I will first thank Your Highness for your kindness on behalf of the world. Si Kongfan also smiled slightly and said, Your Highness is wise and brilliant. Qin Yin chuckled. Don't praise me, it's useless. General Si Kongfan, I don't have the power to promote your military position and status. Besides, after the Battle of Wugu City, Cangnan province is in chaos. There's a shortage of soldiers. Although Yu has worked hard to maintain it for many days, it still hasn't reached its original level. In the future, you still have to rely on yourself to manage it. General Si Kongfan, you must replenish Wugu City with more than 100,000 soldiers as soon as possible. After all, this city is one of the 7 major cities of the empire. It won't do without enough defenders. Si Kongfan cupped his fists and said respectfully, This subordinate obeys. Si Kongfan will not disappoint Your Highness. That's good. Qin Yin stood up and looked Lin Muyu in the eye. She smiled and said, "Brother Yu, I'll have to trouble you during the banquet. Later. Xiao Yin will accompany you to apologize to uncle and ask him to forgive you for your previous disrespect, okay?" Qin Yin held his hand tightly. There was a wronged expression on her beautiful face. She was acting cute and coquettish. Naturally, Lin Muyu couldn't say anything. Besides, Qin Yin's action was indeed reasonable and appropriate. It was indeed what she should do. Lin Muyu also understood that since she came to this world, she had to learn to follow the rules of this world. At least, she had to do so before she had the power to overturn this world. "Yes, okay, let's go and apologize together." "Okay, okay." Qin Yin smiled sweetly, but it made Feng Jixing and Si Kongfan so envious that they touched their noses together. They looked at each other and smiled. Everything was said without words. The banquet was very grand. About 100 people attended. Qin Yin sat in the host seat, accompanied by Su Muyun, Su Qin, Feng Jixing, Si Kongfan, and the others. Lin Muyu's position was slightly lower, so she could only sit with Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and a few other Imperial Army Kiliarchs. General Zhenan belonged to the fourth rank of the Empire's military system. Naturally, he couldn't sit with Su Qin, who was the first rank. No matter how great Lin Muyu's contributions were, this rule couldn't be broken. Five Valleys City was rich and populous, so there was naturally a lot of food and wine stored in the city. In addition, there were many beautiful women in Five Valleys City. Even the maids who held the wine jug were quite beautiful. Zhang Wei and Luo Lai chatted happily, but Lin Muyu held her wine cup and drank cup after cup. She looked at Su Qin, Si Kongfan, and the others from afar and felt a little disgusted. After 3 rounds of wine, when everyone was a little tipsy, Qin Yin held a jade cup in one hand and lifted the hem of her skirt with the other. She walked to Lin Muyu's side and said with a smile, "Brother Yu, let's go and apologize." "Okay." Lin Muyu untied his sword and placed it on the table. He picked up his wine cup and stood up. Qin Yin naturally held his arm, looking like a brother and sister. The two of them came before Su Qin. Qin Yin's face was filled with a bewitching, sweet smile. She said, "Uncle. Brother Yu and I have come to apologize to you. I hope you can forget the unhappy things that happened in Five Valleys City, okay?" Su Qin was stunned. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "I dare not, Your Highness." Lin Muyu held the cup with both hands and said, "General, I have offended you before. I hope you can forgive me. You, don't be so polite. I was indeed a little impulsive at that time. Since we are family, let's not talk too much. Come, let's drink this cup of wine and pretend that nothing happened." "Yes." The wine was very sweet. Su Qin drank this cup of wine and put it down. He raised his eyebrows and once again cupped his fists and bowed to Qin Yin. He said with a smile, "Xiao Yin, I did not go to Lanyan City to see His Majesty empty-handed." "Oh. Did Uncle bring a gift for Imperial Father?" "Of course." Su Qin chuckled and said, "Does Xiao Yin want to see it?" "Of course, show it to me quickly." "Okay." Su Qin clapped his hands and said loudly, "General Zhang Santong, bring the gift here." "Yes." Zhang Santong walked in from outside with a silver box. His dark blue cloak fluttered in the wind. He was in high spirits, as if he had done something great. He handed the box to Qin Yin and said respectfully, "Your Highness, this is General's gift to His Majesty." "Open it." "Yes." The moment the box was opened, Qin Yin let out a low scream and turned around to throw herself into Lin Muyu's arms. Lin Muyu hugged Qin Yin with one arm and leaned over to take a look. To her surprise, there was a bloody human head in the box. The blood had already frozen into frost. The dead man's eyes were wide open, as though he had died with a grievance. It was as though he was about to come back to life at any moment. It was none other than Hu Tianning. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He closed the box and held Qin Yin's slender waist with one hand. He turned around and asked, General, how did Hu Tianing's head come about? Su Qin raised his eyebrows and said, a few days ago, I ordered Zhang Santong to lead the elite cavalry to hunt down Hu Tianing and Long Qianlin's family members. We even intercepted their remaining members just now, so we chopped off Hu Tianing's head as a gift to His Majesty. Hu Tianing was so daring that he minted coins privately. He deserved to die. Your Highness, what do you think of this gift? Qin Yin was startled by the gift in the box. She regained her composure and said with a calm gaze, I believe that Father will be very satisfied with this gift. That's good. Su Qin raised his hand and drank another glass of wine. The red wine flowed down the corner of his mouth like blood. Zhang Santong walked out with the box. Lin Muyu hurriedly chased after him. She stepped on the snow in the Governor-General's manor and asked, General Zhang, please wait a moment. What's wrong, General Lin? Is something the matter? Zhang Santong asked respectfully. Since we caught up to Hu Tianing's body, then, do we have any information on Long Qianlin's whereabouts? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Santong grinned and said, Long Qianlin, that treacherous traitor, has probably died in the chaos? I didn't see him. Then, what about Hu Tianing and Long Qianlin's family members? We've captured them all. They're locked up in the Five Valleys City's imperial prison. I see, yes. General, I'm going to check on them. Excuse me. All right. Chapter 242. Late at night, the moonlight was clear. Lin Muyu, dressed in a white robe, leaned against the stone railing outside the administrative hall, holding the dragon spirit sword in his arms. Qin Yin had already fallen asleep, but he was standing guard outside Qin Yin's room. Beside him, Zhang Wei lit a cigarette, took a puff, and said with a smile, Lord Lin Muyu, do you want a puff? No need, you can enjoy it yourself. Does Lord have something on his mind? You can say that, haha. Zhang Wei laughed and said, Brother, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you are a gold star sparring master in the Holy Temple, and the Great Deacon thinks highly of you. In Zhe Tian Palace, you are even regarded as an adopted son by the Emperor. Even a rough person like me can see how much Her Highness Yin likes you, and your cultivation is even more unfathomable. I really don't understand, what is there to be dissatisfied with after reaching this stage? Your worries, could it be about how to marry Her Highness Yin? That's true. She is the only crown prince, and there are countless people who want to marry her, but there are only a few who can marry her, and only the nobles and the grand dukes can marry her. Lin Muyu curled his lips. Old Zhang, what are you thinking about? I've never thought about this. Then do you love Her Highness? Zhang Wei suddenly rubbed out the cigarette butt and asked with a smile. Lin Muyu was stunned. He reached out and grabbed a handful of snow, kneaded it into a snowball, and threw it out. He said in a low voice, Love. Ha. Zhang Wei laughed, you young people are so pretentious. Love is love, there is no need to be so embarrassed. If you love Her Highness, then work hard towards her. With your ability, who knows, you might even become a queen in the future. The key is that you can't do things like offending Su Qin and His Majesty anymore. You should understand this better than me, right? I know. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Old Zhang, you are getting me into trouble. The reason why I am distressed is not because of Xiao Yin. She is doing well now, and I am also doing well. Moreover, we can see each other every day. What is there to be distressed about? Then why? Because of Long Qianlin's family. Oh. Zhang Wei stood up and said solemnly, My lord, I know that you and Long Qianlin are friends, but you mustn't make a mistake. Long Qianlin is now a traitor of the empire. His family members are also guilty of the same crime. If my lord saves Long Qianlin's family members and this matter reaches His Majesty's ears, I'm afraid that old man Xing Yifan will have something to use against you. I know. Lin Muyu looked up at the bright moonlight and said, but Long Qianlin trusted me so much that he handed over the 17,000 winged cavalry battalion to me. If I can't even save his wife, what will the world think of me, Lin Muyu? Zhang Wei's body trembled as he said, if you're determined to save Long Qianlin's wife, then I, Zhang Wei, am willing to go with you. How are you going to save her? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei squinted his eyes and said with a smile, it just so happens that there are two groups of people guarding the prison. One group is the Imperial Army, and the other group is the Iron Blade Army of Muyu City. The Imperial Army will replace them in the latter half of the night. They are all my people. Tonight, I will create chaos and seize the opportunity to save Long Qianlin's wife. But I can only save one person. Okay. Lin Muyu nodded and said, tonight, I will take the initiative to take the winged cavalry battalion to patrol the city. When the time comes, I will pick you up. After rescuing Hu Xiaoyun, old Zhang, you will personally send her to Mount Longyan in Longyan City. Send Hu Xiaoyun up the mountain and tell Luo Yu in the Longdan army camp to take care of Hu Xiaoyun. When there is news of Long Qianlin, send her over. Yes, my lord, don't worry. Okay. Late at night, the sound of a collapse shook the city. The walls of the prison had collapsed. Under the moonlight, Zhang Wei carried a woman in his arms and galloped towards the north gate of Five Valley City. Outside the north gate, Lin Muyu was guarding the gate with a group of soldiers from the winged cavalry battalion. She opened her hand and said loudly, the gate is closed. If you want to leave the city, you can leave tomorrow. Zhang Wei lifted his cloak and said with a smile, General Lin, it's me. My mother is sick and I want to go home to visit her. I hope that general will let me go. Thank you very much. It's Sir Zhang Wei. Lin Muyu smiled and waved her hand. Open the gate and let him go. A winged cavalry battalion commandant was dumbfounded. Sir, this is against the rules, right? The general said that no one is allowed to enter or leave Five Valley City after midnight. If I ask you to let him go, then let him go. Don't talk too much. Yes. Zhang Wei slowly galloped past. At this moment, the cloak on the head of the woman in his arms slowly slid down, revealing a beautiful face. She gently bowed to Lin Muyu and said, Hu Xiaoyun. Thank you, General Lin. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, hurry up and go. Thank you, General. Zhang Wei disappeared into the night amidst the sound of hooves. The two winged cavalry battalion commandants also saw Hu Xiaoyun's appearance and looked at Lin Muyu with a dumbfounded expression. You guys, just pretend that you didn't see anything. If anyone dares to leak any information, I will chase him to the ends of the earth and kill him. A murderous look flashed across Lin Muyu's face. The two winged cavalry battalion commandants knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, we brothers from the winged cavalry battalion will never be able to repay General's kindness. Don't say any more. Go back and sleep early. We still have to rush to Longyan City early tomorrow morning. Yes. That night, Lin Muyu couldn't sleep. On one hand, she was worried about whether Zhang Wei would arrive at Dragon Rocky Mountain safely. On the other hand, she felt sorry for Long Qianlin's whereabouts were unknown. Long Qianlin was a benevolent general, and it would be a pity if he died just like that. The next morning, the army set off straight for Longyan City. Su Muyun sat in a carriage with the etiquette of a nobleman. 8 black horses pulled the carriage together, looking very dignified. Qin Yin, on the other hand, sat in the princess carriage. Lin Muyu rode on a warhorse and followed closely beside the carriage to protect it. This was his responsibility. The snow was melting, and the weather was very cold. Qin Yin lifted the curtain of the carriage and looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. She asked, do you want some fruits? I have apples and pears here. Do you want some? No need. Thank you, Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu grabbed the water bag from her waist and drank a mouthful of wine. Immediately, a warm current flowed into her stomach. Strong wine could ward off the cold. This was a time-tested fact. At this time, Feng Jixing, who was wearing a commander's armor, came over on his horse. He smiled and said, "Your Highness, I want to eat an apple." "Hee, I'm not giving it to you." Qin Yin stuck out her tongue. Lin Muyu burst into laughter. "Brother Feng, why are you here? Aren't you leading the way at the front? This time, there are 5,000 imperial guards. There's no need for me to lead the way." Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and said, "On the other hand, Duke Yin ordered me to take good care of the families of the traitor generals in the prison carts at the back. It's really troublesome. I, Feng Jixing, can't stand seeing women being humiliated." "Oh right, Ayu, do you know where Zhang Wei went?" "He disappeared without saying a word. That guy, if it wasn't for his good command, I would have removed him from his position." Lin Muyu took an apple from Qin Yin and passed it to Feng Jixing. "I don't know. What does it have to do with me if you don't look after your own subordinates?" Feng Jixing took a bite of the apple, and juice splattered everywhere. He looked at Lin Muyu with a chuckle and said in a low voice, "Humph, the walls of the imperial prison collapsed last night. A general purposely released a woman. This scene was seen by a beggar. You guys are too dirty. You even need me to clean up after you. I wasted 10 Jinin coins just to get rid of that beggar." Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She couldn't help but say gratefully, "Then, thank you, Brother Feng." Feng Jixing patted his shoulder and wiped the apple juice on his hand on Lin Muyu's holy temple cloak. "Next time you do something like this, let me know, okay?" "Yes, I know. Hey, remember to treat me to a meal when you return to Lanyan City." "I didn't give you 10 Jinin coins for nothing." "No problem. I'll treat you to a meal at Tingyu Tower until you're full." Okay. I also want to find 2 beauties to drink with me." "That's fine too." Qin Yin looked at Feng Jixing from afar and pouted. "General Feng, don't lead my brother you astray. Tingyu Tower doesn't have any beauties to drink with you." General Feng took a deep breath and said meaningfully, "Your Highness, you are deeply in love with each other. Have you ever thought that a single general like me will also be lonely at night?" Qin Yin blushed. She couldn't win against him in an argument. "Pfft, General Feng, you're not ashamed." Feng Jixing spread out his hands. "What's wrong with that? After the banquet last night, didn't a certain crown prince secretly kiss you's left cheek in the corner of the administrative hall?" Qin Yin's face turned even redder. She waved her fists. I'm going to use the god-binding chains to fight it out with you." Feng Jixing laughed. Look, His Highness is getting anxious." Do you think there's any falsehood in my words?" Lin Muyu touched her nose. "It's the right cheek," Qin Yin blushed. "I don't want to talk to you guys anymore." At this time, Su Qin, who was riding in front of them, turned around and looked at them in surprise. "You guys. What are you doing?" "Nothing, General." Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said solemnly. Lin Muyu also immediately gave an imperial military salute. "General." Su Qin was dubious. He smiled and said, "The top 2 of the 4 heroes of Lanyan are so young. Hee. The famous generals of the empire finally have successors. You 2 should work hard to practice, study the art of war, and contribute to the empire in the future." "Yes, General." The 2 men who had just flirted with the princess put on a righteous look. They cupped their fists and saluted with the demeanor of a famous general. 4 days later, they arrived at Lanyan City. On the way, Zhang Wei rejoined the troops. The reason was that he wanted to go home to visit his seriously ill mother. But when he returned, his mother had recovered and was healthy, so he came back. Feng Jixing naturally smiled and did not speak. In his heart, he was secretly cursing these 2 bastards. Even their lies were so ridiculous. Chapter 243. In Zhe Tian Palace Hall, 12 coiled dragon pillars supported the glazed jade tiles of the main hall. The lustrous jade carvings on the floor reflected the light of the glazed lamps. In the afternoon, it was time for another court meeting for the officials to meet the emperor. Qin Jin stood in front of the throne with a joyful expression. When he saw Su Muyun, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, and the others coming in from outside, the smile on his face became even wider. He opened his arms and said, "Shao Yin, you're finally back." Qin Yin walked gracefully, her hands gently holding the tassels at the edge of her dress as she walked to her father's side. She stuck out her tongue and smiled mischievously. "Father, Shao Yin is back." Qin Jin held his daughter's shoulder and asked with love in his eyes, "Did you encounter any danger along the way?" Qin Yin was startled. She thought of the terrifying assassin she met by the rice river. The scene of her narrowly escaping death was still fresh in her mind. She couldn't help but tremble and said, "It's all right. Aren't I back alive? Imperial father, maternal grandfather also came back with me." Qin Jin nodded with a smile. He walked down the gilded steps and arrived in front of Su Muyun. He cupped his fists and said, "Duke Yun, Qin Jin greets you." "Duke Yun, it's been a long journey." Su Muyun hurriedly helped the emperor up and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, there's no need for such greetings. As the ruler of Yunzhong province, it's my duty to share your Majesty's worries. It's hateful that Hu Tianning minted Jinin coins without permission and disregarded the empire's laws. He deserves to die. The attack on Sangnan province is a success. We've returned with Hu Tianning's head." Su Qin, who was behind him, walked forward with the gilded box and opened it. "Your Majesty, this is Hu Tianning's head." Qin Jin didn't even look at it. He nodded and said, "General Su Qin, you've worked hard. I'll send it to Mu City after the reward." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Qin Jin said with concern, "Duke Yun, why don't you stay in Zetian Palace Hall today? In any case, there are still many rooms. Even if Duke Yun, General Su Qin, and General Su Yu bring their attendants to stay in Zetian Palace Hall, it won't be a problem. All of you are family, so don't treat me as an outsider. Just treat it as a homecoming." However, Su Muyun cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, we are all officials. How can we be so presumptuous? According to the ancestors' instructions, only Your Majesty, your concubines, and your children are allowed to stay in Zetian Palace. It's better for us to stay in the post house in the imperial capital. Then, that's all we can do. Duke Yun, you should stay and drink with me tonight. This old subject receives the decree." In the afternoon, Qin Lei led a group of imperial guards to escort Su Muyun, Su Qin, and Su Yu to the post house to rest. Su Muyun didn't bring many guards with him, only 500 million Uruguayan peso city cavalry guards. This was to avoid arousing suspicion. After all, leading too many people into Lanyan City was equivalent to offending the emperor. As a two-generation meritorious official, Su Muyun naturally knew this well. In Zetian Palace, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and the others were still there. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin reminisced for a while. When they talked about Chu Yao's recent situation, Chu Huayin smiled proudly and said, "Yao's alchemy skills, medical skills, and cultivation have improved a lot. It is said that she can already refine level 7 medicines. The great deacon of the spiritual medicine department is considering whether to promote Yao to one of the deacons of the spiritual medicine department." "Wow, Sister Chu Yao is so powerful now?" Lin Muyu said happily, "Then I'll congratulate her first. Once she is promoted to a deacon of the spiritual medicine department, she will have a sufficient status in the capital." Chu Huayin chuckled, "No matter how powerful Yao is, she can't compare to you." Lin Muyu touched her nose and said very modestly, Who do I think I am?" Don't be so modest. His Majesty will definitely reward you heavily for such a great achievement this time. Just wait and see." "I hope so." At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi arrived at Zetian Palace and was brought in by an attendant. She was dressed in red and her beautiful face had a refreshing smile. She said angrily, "Mu, you didn't even come to see me when you came back. Io, your enemy is here. I'll take my leave first." Chu Huayin cupped his fists and smiled. "I, Chu Huayin, will take my leave." Lin Muyu didn't have time to greet him. She turned around and said to Tang Xiaoxi, "Didn't I just return to the capital to hand in the order? I can't find time to see you for the time being. On the other hand, Xiao Shi, you're quite well informed. You knew that I was back so quickly." Humph. Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest, but her breasts were even more prominent. "You're right. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone on Tongtian Street said that Duke Muyun and Her Highness Yin had returned to Lanyan City, I wouldn't have known that you were back too." Lin Muyu smiled apologetically. "This mission was very confidential, so I didn't have time to inform you. Don't be angry. How was your cultivation while I was away?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. "Hee, I've already cultivated the 5th level of the Firefox seal." "So fast. Congratulations, Xiao Shi." Hee. At this time, Qi Nin walked down the stairs and said with a smile, "Xiao Shi, you're here too." Tang Xiaoxi pouted. "Xiao Yin, you're too mean. You secretly went out with Mu and left me alone to cultivate in Lanyan City. Next time, you must bring me along." "Humph." Qin Yin pouted. "You and I almost lost our lives in Daojiang, and you still say that. What happened?" Qin Yin briefly described the encounter with the man on Daojiang. At this time, Chu Chu also came. He listened on the side and couldn't help but look grim. "Your Highness, the person you met really did use black do qi." "Yes, you and I saw it." Qin Yin nodded. "Really, you?" Chu Chu confirmed again. Lin Muyu cupped her fists. "Yes, Chu. His dark fighting energy is very powerful, but his swordsmanship is even more powerful. It's a swordsmanship that I have never seen before. I couldn't last more than 3 rounds under his sword. If it wasn't for the frost armor dragon in Daojiang, I'm afraid that Xiao Yin and I would have died in Yinzhong province. His swordsmanship is very powerful." Chu Chu frowned. "You, Xiao Yin, come with me." "Yes." Qin Yin and Lin Muyu followed Chu Chu and left Zai Tian Palace Hall. Feng Jixing and Chu Huayin went to carry out their patrol mission. Tang Xiaoxi had nothing to do, so she followed them uninvited. The 4 of them walked along the Sovereign King's corridor and arrived at the library. The moment they entered the library, Chu Chu turned around and said to the library's official, "Close the door. No one is allowed to enter without my order." "Yes, Sir Chu Chu." With a squeak, the door was closed. Only the 4 of them were left in the library. The candlelight flickered, and it was indescribably quiet. Chu Chu stretched out his hand and said, "Sit down and drink some tea. Tell grandfather more about that person. I want to know more." "Yes." Although Lin Muyu and Qin Yin didn't know why Chu Chu was so nervous after hearing about that person, they knew that there must be something important hidden in it. Tang Xiaoxi didn't personally experience the assassination, so she obediently made tea while quietly listening to the 3 of them talk about the assassination. The other person who personally experienced it, Qin Yin's golden rock swift wolf, was like a big dog crawling at the side. It wagged its tail and fawned on Tang Xiaoxi. This made Lin Muyu look down on it. This guy only knew how to act spoiled and cute in front of beauties. It should be killed immediately. "You, other than his dark do qi and brilliant swordsmanship, what other characteristics does he have?" Chu Chu asked. As for the others, Lin Muyu muttered to herself and tried hard to recall. She said, "That's right, every time he used his energy to attack, his eyes would turn blood red, like the blood of the sunset." Chu Chu's body trembled slightly. And then, there didn't seem to be any other characteristics. However, he was very arrogant, as if he looked down on me and Xiao Yin. I don't know where he got his confidence from. That's right, we found an iron ruler in the ruins of a temple. This person came for this iron ruler. He said it was some kind of sacred weapon. Is that so? Chu Chu's eyes widened. And then, where is this iron ruler? I refined it. Lin Muyu said with some embarrassment. At that time, thousands of horned dragons attacked me and him. He tore us apart and ate us. It was difficult for me to escape. My left arm was bitten, so I cut it off to escape. After losing an arm, I felt that this iron ruler had a strong life force, so I refined it. I didn't think that I would really reconstruct my left arm. What? Tang Xiaoxi put down the teacup and hurriedly held Lin Muyu's arm. She carefully observed it and raised her head in shock. Mu, your arm, was broken before? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. The arm that you see now is actually a new arm formed after my blood meridians and the iron ruler fused. Chu Chu stroked his white beard. His face was solemn. After you refined this iron ruler, did you obtain some kind of ability? Yes, the strength of my left arm has greatly increased. It seems that I can also condense an energy layer that can protect myself. Come, activate it and let Grandpa see. Yes. Lin Muyu stood up and walked far away from the table. Suddenly, her entire body was overflowing with dou qi. With a shout, the faint sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. The image of a golden true dragon lingered around her left arm. Her entire arm was glowing with a translucent luster. Endless righteousness enshrouded it, making people have the urge to kneel down and worship it. This. Chu Chu was dumbstruck. He couldn't hide the amazement and admiration in his eyes. Ah, you're really blessed by the heavens. You barely escaped death and still managed to obtain this kind of ancient divine power. Ancient divine power? Lin Muyu was surprised. Chu, is this considered ancient divine power? Yes, you still don't know the origin of this iron ruler? Yes, I really don't know. Chu Chu said leisurely, Xiaoyin, go and get the records of the gods and demons from the deepest part of the library. Yes, it's the historical book written by Dong Hanshu 28,000 years ago. Yes, Chu. Chapter 244. Qin Yin brought a thick ancient book to the table and handed it to Chu Chu. Chu Chu placed it on the table and quickly flipped to page 17. He pointed at it and saw 9 diagrams, one of which was in the shape of an iron ruler. Chu Chu asked, take a look. Isn't that iron ruler like this? Lin Muyu moved closer to take a look and was dumbfounded. That's it, that's the iron ruler. Unfortunately, apart from the diagrams, Lin Muyu didn't recognize any of the words on the Book of Gods and Demons. It looked like Sanskrit, but it didn't seem like it either. It should be the ancient words that Qin Yin had mentioned. Chu Chu stroked his white beard and said, there shouldn't be more than 10 people in the entire Shattered Cauldron realm who can understand this Book of Gods and Demons. When I was young, I followed my master and learned this so-called God realm language, so I know a thing or two about it. When I was in my 40s, I took the opportunity to flip through this Book of Gods and Demons, so I have some impression of it. Chu, just tell us where this iron ruler came from. Lin Muyu said anxiously. Chu Chu couldn't help but smile and said, don't be anxious. Let me tell you first. There was a gap in the history of this continent. About 50,000 years ago, it was said that a meteorite fell from the sky and separated the continent. 50,000 years ago, all the civilizations were burned to the ground. Afterwards, it gradually evolved into the Shattered Cauldron realm we have today. Therefore, the history that we can see now only starts from 50,000 years ago. There's nothing before that. What does that have to do with this iron ruler? Qin Yin blinked and asked. Chu Chu smiled slightly and said, do you know that 50,000 years ago, we weren't the rulers of this continent? What? Qin Yin was shocked. Then who was it? Chu Chu squinted his eyes and shook his head. I don't know who it is either, but it might be another group of humans. Let's call them the pre-ancient humans for now. These pre-ancient humans worshipped the 9 great gods. Back then, the heaven realm had 9 gods of domination, and they called them the 9 great Buddhas. Each of the 9 gods of domination had a protective sacred weapon, which was the Tianchong demon blade, the glazed sword, the mysterious spiritual ruler, and so on. If I'm not wrong, the iron ruler that you refined was the mysterious spiritual ruler of the 9 great protector sacred weapons. It was the protective sacred weapon of Buddha Xian Nan, who was in charge of life and recovery among the 9 gods of domination. Buddha Xian Nan is also the Buddha Xian Ji that we worship today. Qin Yin opened her mouth wide in astonishment. Chu means, the iron ruler that you refined is actually the profound spiritual ruler of the 9 great guardian sacred weapons? That's right. Otherwise, how could we reconstruct his body? Chu Chu stroked his beard and said with a smile, ordinary divine weapons don't have such an ability at all. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said, since I refined the profound spiritual ruler, then, who is that assassin? How did he know about the profound spiritual ruler? Chu Chu's eyes lit up and said, if I'm not wrong, this person is a descendant of the pre-ancient humans. He's also the guardian of the 9 great protector sacred weapons. 50,000 years ago, they were the masters of this continent. Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth, my god. Luckily this person was eaten by the horned dragon, otherwise Mu would be in danger. Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. Xiaoxi, you're only worried about Yu's safety. Tang Xiaoxi blushed. I didn't. Lin Muyu's expression was solemn as she said, Chu, could there be more descendants of the pre-ancient humans? This person is so powerful. If there really are more pre-ancient humans, I'm afraid the continent will change masters. No. Chu Chu shook his head and smiled, there won't be too many of them. Otherwise, they would have attacked the Qin Empire a long time ago. However, this group of pre-ancient humans has actually started to search for the 9 great protector sacred weapons. This is a warning. Perhaps we humans, who have dominated the continent for tens of thousands of years, should also be on our guard. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin looked at each other and saw a trace of worry in each other's eyes. At this moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door and said, Chu, His Majesty summons Master Lin Muyu to the Zaibing Hall for an audience. Okay, I'll go right away. Chu Chu smiled faintly. His Majesty summons you for an audience. Go quickly and make some preparations. It should be tonight's celebration banquet. Cangnan province is now completely under His Majesty's control. Your great contribution cannot be replaced by anyone. Lin Muyu got up and went to the Zaibing Hall. This Zaibing Hall was located right behind the Zai Tian Hall. It was also the place where the emperor received some commanders and generals. Summoning Lin Muyu in the Zaibing Hall, the meaning behind it was self-evident. Knock knock. Lightly knocking on the door, Lin Muyu respectfully said, Your Majesty, this humble one has arrived. You, come in. Yes. She pushed the door open and entered. She saw Qin Jin holding a rusty saber with a solemn expression. When he turned around, his face showed that he had been through a lot, as if he had experienced a lot in this short moment. Your Majesty, what business do you have with me? Lin Muyu asked. Call me Imperial Father? Qin Jin said with a smile. Yes, Imperial Father. All right, you. Qin Jin walked forward and said, Come with me. Imperial Father will show you a place. Oh. This is. After passing through the Zai Tian Hall, there was a small pavilion at the back. However, there were 4 Imperial guards standing guard at the front. On the pavilion's simple and unadorned board, there were 3 large words written in flamboyant calligraphy, Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Soaring Clouds Pavilion? Lin Muyu said in surprise. That's right. Qin Jin pushed the door open and entered. Instantly, a gust of cold wind blew from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. When Lin Muyu stepped in, she saw that the Soaring Clouds Pavilion was very spacious. Ancient tables were placed in the center. On each table was a piece of armor, a weapon, and so on. Some weapons were long sabers, some were sharp swords, some were war hammers, and so on. Behind each table was a memorial tablet. Lin Muyu got closer and saw a line of large words written on the first memorial tablet: Spirit of the founding general Xiang Wendian. Xiang Wendian? Lin Muyu was stunned. The war god Xiang Wendian, Xiang Yu's ancestor? Yes. Qin Jin smiled faintly and pointed to the row of memorial tablets behind him. Soaring Clouds Pavilion is where the Qin Empire enshrines famous generals. Only famous generals with enough contributions can enter the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. The Qin Empire has had thousands of years of fortune, but only 26 famous generals have entered the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Over the past 100 years of war, the divine Marquis Xing Yifan and the border general Feng Yicheng have become members of the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. However, Xing Yifan is still alive, while Feng Yicheng has already died in battle. Lin Muyu took a closer look and realized that the person ranked second was Luo Tonghai, Luo Yu's ancestor. It was because of this famous general that Luo Yu joined the Longdan army camp. She wanted to become someone like her ancestor. As for Xing Yifan, he was ranked 7th, and Feng Yicheng was ranked 16th. She basically didn't know anyone else. Lin Muyu didn't have the time to study the empire's history at the moment. I wonder why father brought me to the Soaring Clouds Pavilion? Lin Muyu suddenly asked. Qin Jin laughed and said, You, heroes are created in troubled times. I think you should understand this logic. Moreover, you are a smart man. There are only you and father in the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Don't tell me you still don't understand? The Qin Empire is about to fall into chaos. To the south of the Qinling Mountains, the feudal vassals of the 4 provinces all follow the lead of my elder brother, the Prince of Jinan, Qin Yi. I haven't seen this elder brother for many years. To the north of the Qinling Mountains, there are a total of 8 provinces. The North Ridge Province, South Ridge Province, and Earth Star Province are now under father's control. The other 5 provinces, Duke Lan is in charge of Seven Seas Province, Duke Yun is in charge of Cloud Province. Although Heaven's Pivot Province pays tribute every year, its military power is not under father's control. Lingdong Province is a remote place in the east. The land is barren, the population is sparse, and the military strength is less than 10,000. Tongtian Province is located at the northeast border, so it's inconvenient to travel. Even messenger birds can't fly there, so it's not under father's control. As he spoke, Qin Jin let out a long, sorrowful sigh. This empire. If any one of Qin Yi, Su Muyun, or Tang Lan were to rebel, I'm afraid the empire would be torn apart. Lin Muyu was startled. She stepped forward to hold Qin Jin's arm and said, Father, it definitely won't happen. Duke Yun is loyal and generous. Although his son Su Qin is reckless, he's also loyal to His Majesty. Cloud Province won't rebel, but Duke Lan of Seven Seas Province is Shao Shi's grandfather. Shao Shi and Shao Yin have such a close relationship, so Seven Seas Province won't rebel either. In that case, with more than 600,000 troops loyal to father, I believe that the Prince of Jinan won't launch an invasion, right? Qin Jin smiled. You've seen through it. However, the hearts of men are separated by a layer of skin. Under the temptation of the throne, how many people can maintain their loyalty? Is father worried about Xing Yifan? Xing Yifan? Qin Jin sneered. Xing Yifan is just a dead dog. There's nothing to fear. The person I'm most worried about isn't him. Then, Qin Yi? Or Duke Lan and Duke Yun? Sigh, let's not talk about this anymore. Qin Jin placed a hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder. His eyes were full of deep meaning as he said, Father brought you to Soaring Clouds Pavilion to tell you that one day, Father hopes that you's name will appear in Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Father knows that it's his destiny, but time isn't on his side. I'm afraid that you'll be the only one who can accompany Shao Yin in the future. It won't be easy for Shao Yin to protect this empire. You, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Chu Huaying are father's hopes. Do you know that? Lin Muyu immediately took a step back. She placed her sword and scabbard on the ground. She knelt on one knee in front of her godfather and said solemnly, Lin Muyu hereby swears that I'll never betray Xiao Yin in this life. A satisfied smile appeared on Qin Jin's face. In that case, father can rest assured. Get up and prepare for tonight's banquet. This is a celebration banquet for you, Su Qin, and Xiao Yin. Yes, father. By the way, you've made a great contribution this time, but father can't give you any rewards or promotions. If you're promoted too quickly, you'll become the target of public criticism. Do you understand? Yes, father is wise. Chapter 245. In the evening, Zhe Tian Hall held a banquet to celebrate Su Qin, Lin Muyu, and the others. The head of the sinner, Hu Tianning, was hung high in a bamboo cage above the square, swaying slowly with the wind. Xiangyu placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and stood silently in the corridor. He raised his head and looked at the heads in the square. A murderous intent flashed in his eyes. At the side, deity Marquis Xing Yifan said indifferently, Lord Hu Tianning has been honest all his life, but who would have thought that he would lose his integrity in his old age? Minting coins privately, how foolish, how foolish. Even so, he was still a meritorious minister, but he was killed without even interrogating him. Sigh, this is truly lamentable. Lord Hu Tianning, my condolences. A smile appeared on Xiang Yu's face. The divine Marquis is right. Hu Tianning may be my uncle, but as an important official of the empire, he knowingly broke the law. He brought this upon himself and has no one to blame but me, his nephew, for taking this as a warning. Jin Yifan smiled. It's great that Lord Xiang Yu can think this way. If all the soldiers of the empire could be like Lord Xiang Yu, then the world would be at peace. Xing Yifan's gaze turned cold as he said, however, I also heard that Lord Xiang Yu's mother was also in the Five Valleys city. She was hit by a stray arrow in the chaos that night when they were breaking out of the encirclement. Unfortunately, she passed away. I wonder if this is true. The corner of Xiang Yu's mouth twitched, and he said, yes. Ah. Xing Yifan panicked and said, it's really like this. Oh my god, that's really too infuriating. The old madam has been loyal to the empire all her life, how can Su Qin be like this? Lord Xiang Yu, please restrain your grief. Xiang Yu's palm moved slightly on the hilt of his sword. He said lightly, I will send my mother off tomorrow. Thank you for your concern, Marquis. Xiang Yu is fine, I know. This is all my uncle's fault. It has nothing to do with Great General Su Qin. If that's the case, then it's good. Lord Xiang Yu and General Su Qin are both pillars of the empire and the seeds of future famous generals of the empire. If there's any conflict between the two of you, it won't be good. Rest assured Marquis, General Su Qin and I will serve the empire together, there is no gap between us. Okay, then let's go to General Su Qin's celebration banquet. Yes, Marquis, this way please. Lord Xiang Yu, please. Tonight, there were a total of close to 300 guests, and it could be said to be a gathering of officials. The celestial emperor, Qin Jin, sat on the throne of the Zhe Tian Palace Hall. Beside him, the tables of Qin Yan and Feng Jixing, the two great generals, were also placed there. It was not because their statuses were very high, but because they wanted to ensure the celestial emperor's safety. As for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, their tables were arranged to the left of Lin Muyu, so that it would be convenient for him to protect her. A little further away were the tables of Chu Huaying, Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, and the others. Among the imperial guards, those whose cultivation had stepped into the heaven realm had already been seated, and all of them had brought their weapons with them. As for the civil and military officials who had come from outside, they had to remove their weapons before entering the Zhe Tian Palace Hall. In fact, even Su Qin, Xiang Yu, Jin Yifan, and the others were not exempted. This was the rule, and no one could be exempted. Not long after, the celebration banquet began. A group of palace maids danced in the center of the hall, and the musicians played a tune. Qin Jin raised his cup with a smile and said, "Sangnan provinces Hu Tianing minted coins without permission, and he has long had the intention to rebel. Now that the matter has been exposed, Duke Yun, Her Highness Qin Yin, General Su Qin, General Lin Muyu, and the others have made great contributions in quelling the rebellion. My beloved officials, let's raise our cups and celebrate." Everyone raised their cups and drained them in one go. Lin Muyu was a little slower, and her gaze fell on Xiangyu. Although Xiangyu was full of smiles, when he looked at Su Qin, the fleeting murderous intent in his eyes didn't escape Lin Muyu's eyes. Just the table in front of Lin Muyu alone was already filled with 6 pots of dishes. It was simply too sumptuous. Lin Muyu observed the actions of the people at the banquet as he ate heartily. It had been a long time since he had eaten such sumptuous and delicious food. Even the fine wine was a tribute from the Zetian Palace Hall, and it was very tasty and fragrant. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin were chatting happily, and they had already forgotten about Lin Muyu. This was good as well, as he could focus on eating now. Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, and the others didn't drink any wine. Their tiger-like eyes looked at everything around them, intentionally or otherwise. Zhang Wei, on the other hand, was a boorish person. He gulped down half a pot of wine, let out a burp, and continued drinking. Not far away, Chu Chu and Lei Hong's seats were arranged next to Su Muyun's. The 3 old officials of the empire were also chatting happily, and they would even look in the direction of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi from time to time. They seemed to be discussing something about them. However, the banquet was too noisy, and even if Lin Muyu released her spiritual pulse technique, she couldn't hear what they were talking about. Not long after, Lei Hong came to Lin Muyu's side with a wine cup in hand. He reached out and pulled out a rabbit thigh from the golden pot, took a bite, and said with a smile, "The food from the Zetian Palace Hall is still delicious." Lin Muyu was speechless, and said, "This is mine." "Great Deacon, you have some on your table too. Other people's food is even more delicious." Lei Hong took another bite, and said, "You, come and have a drink with Grandpa." "Okay." Lin Muyu raised his cup, and said with a smile, "Great Deacon Lei Hong, may Grandpa live as long as the mountains, and live forever." Okay. Lei Hong happily drank his wine, and then looked up at him, and said, "Now that winter and spring have passed, there are no more missions in the Eagle Nest camp. Shouldn't you make a trip back to the Divine Temple? The newcomers in the Divine Temple are looking forward to meeting Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yen." "I see." Lin Muyu smiled, and said, "Okay, I will let Wei Chou handle the matters of the Eagle Nest camp, and I will go back to the Divine Temple to stay for half a month. What do you think, Great Deacon?" "Okay." Lei Hong patted his shoulder, and said, "Then Grandpa will go back to the Divine Temple to gather everyone after the banquet ends, and we will wait for your return." "Okay." The banquet went on for more than 2 hours, and many people were already drunk. Qin Jin was not feeling well, so he left the banquet early, and Qin Yin presided over the banquet. It was time for the Crown Prince to interact more with the officials, or else who would submit to such a beautiful girl when he took over the throne in the future? When the banquet ended, Lin Muyu had Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others stay at Zetian Palace for the night, and they were responsible for the safety of His Majesty and the princess. Lin Muyu escorted Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion. On the long corridor outside Zetian Palace, a group of people walked side by side with their horses. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Su Qin, and Su Er were among them. Duke Yun sat in the carriage, and he was old and frail, and couldn't bear the torment. "Will Uncle and Aunt Si really stay at the post house tonight?" Lin Muyu asked. Su Er chuckled, and said, "Of course. There is no Duke's mansion in Lan Yen City, so we can only stay at the post house." Tang Xiaoxi giggled, and said, "If Aunt Si doesn't mind, you can accompany Duke Yun to stay at the Duke's mansion of the 7 Seas. We have many empty rooms, and we have enough servants." Su Er laughed, and said, "No need to trouble Princess Shi, we will leave early tomorrow morning, and we can just stay at the post house tonight." Oh right, you have to escort Princess Shi back to the mansion. She only brought 4 guards with her, and that's not enough. It just so happens that you are going back to the Divine Temple, so it's on the way. Lin Muyu nodded, and said, okay, I understand. After watching Duke Yun, Su Qin, and Suyu return to the post house, Lin Muyu escorted Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion, and then he returned to the Divine Temple. When he returned to the Divine Temple, he saw the spiritual medicine department opposite, and he couldn't help but think of Chu Yao's beautiful and warm face, and he couldn't help but feel a wave in his heart. It's okay, I have time to visit Chu Yao. When he arrived at the gate of the Divine Temple, he said respectfully, I'm back, please let me in. The 2 Divine Temple guards immediately recognized him, and they were overjoyed, and said, Lord Lin Muyu is back? Open the gate, let me in. After entering the Divine Temple, Deacon Guyang was waiting in the long corridor with a smile, and said, You are finally willing to return to the Divine Temple? Let's go to the main hall, the Great Deacon and everyone is waiting for you. Okay, thank you, Deacon Guyang. Guyang led the way, and all the way to the main hall of the Divine Temple, he realized that there was a large group of people standing there. Almost all the deacons, instructors, and sparring partners were already there, and they actually didn't sleep in the middle of the night, as if they were all waiting for Lin Muyu's return. Big brother Lin Muyu. Qin Yan smiled and greeted from afar. Lin Muyu also smiled and nodded, and then followed Guyang to the direction of Lei Hong. Just like that, they stood beside Lei Hong's great deacon throne, and everyone was solemnly waiting for something. This made Lin Muyu's heart pound, and looking at this atmosphere, it didn't seem like they were welcoming a sparring partner, but more like a ceremony. But, what kind of ceremony could this be? At this time, Lei Hong lightly stood up, and said with a clear smile, as everyone knows, the Divine Temple of the Empire has a Divine Temple branch in every province, and with the Divine Temple in the capital as the headquarters, the Divine Temple has 2 deacons, 12 deacons. Currently, the other great deacon has been wandering for many years, and his whereabouts are unknown. Among the 12 deacons, 8 deacons are in charge of the Divine Temple branches in the major provinces, and the capital headquarters only has 4 deacons. Because Deacon Zhenfang's Qi Si was destroyed, he resigned from his position, and the 4 deacons are lacking 1, so today, I have decided to promote one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yan, Lin Muyu, to one of the 4 deacons of the Divine Temple headquarters. Lin Muyu was startled. Great Deacon, I don't have much time on normal days, this isn't too good, right? There's nothing bad about it. Lei Hong patted his shoulder, and said with a smile, from today onwards, Lin Muyu is no longer just a gold star sparring master, but one of our 4 great deacons. His main responsibility is to teach gold star instructors and gold star sparring masters all kinds of combat skills. I wonder if anyone has any objections? As a gold star instructor, Qin Yan immediately cupped his fists and said, Big brother Lin Muyu's strength is above my older brother Qin Lei's, and with the 10th grade Green Gourd martial spirit defeating the 1st grade God binding chains, he is well deserved. With him as a deacon, I, Qin Yan, am the first to be sincerely convinced. Another gold star instructor also cupped his fists and said, Lord Lin Muyu is well deserved to be a deacon. Very quickly, everyone expressed their agreement. Lei Hong turned around and smiled, You see, it's well deserved, you're definitely going to be a deacon. Lin Muyu was extremely helpless, and could only nod his head. All right then, I'll give it a try first. That's right, men, bring Deacon Lin's new armor over. Yes. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.